So, this is the July 19th public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees being held via hybrid format, allowing remote, in-person, and participation under the Massachusetts Commonwealth Act relative to extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency. First, I'll take a roll call to confirm that all trustees and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. So let's start with Rob. Rob Pettit.
Here.
Jay Fialco.
Here.
Anna Geraldo Kerr. Here. Carol Thomas. Here. Harkins.
Here.
That's all the trustees. James, I'm sorry, and yes, Earhart. Great.
Yeah.
I know, right off to a great start. Okay, and of the staff members who are present here tonight, we have Kim Hewitt here. We have Gay, Ellen Bennett. Who'll be vanishing shortly. We have Faith Chrisley. And we welcome here tonight Kate Fitzpatrick and Katie King from Town Managers. And I think that's it, unless I'm missing anybody. Oh, Dimitri. Okay, that's right. Dimitri's up. And Dimitri Kyriakis, Assistant Director. Okay. And we do not have, normally we would have Joan Smith from the Library Foundation, but I understand she's away and can't be here this year. So, for members of the public attending remotely, the meeting will allow comments by means of the chat function only. This meeting is being recorded. Remote participants should be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to unintentionally share your screen, and please mute your phones or computers while not speaking. For effective and clear conduct of the meeting's business and to ensure an accurate meeting minutes, the chair will introduce each item in the agenda and then invite members to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After members have spoken, the chair will offer public comments via the chat function or in person for those now that we're back in person. As required, okay, so I guess this is a question, as required by Act, voting will be done by roll call, which we probably don't need to do since all the trustees are here tonight, are here in person.
Right.
Okay, so we won't do roll call, we'll just do voice vote. Okay, so I'd like to request a motion to call the Needham Board of Library Trustees to order at 7:03 p.m. on Tuesday, July 19th.
So moved.
Thank you, Rob. A second? Second by Anna. We call to order. The meeting of the Library Trustees is now in session. So, and first off, we want to welcome our new member, which we're very excited to have Earhart Grafe join us with all his interesting background and innovative work that he's done in his past life and will now bring to the benefit of Needham and Needham Library. So, anybody else have anything to say to welcome Earhart?
Welcome.
We're delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so minutes of the last meeting. We have two sets of minutes this time. One is the minutes of the past regular meetings. Yes. There's one. Oh, okay. I guess we are going to do the minutes after Kate and Katie. So why don't we do that first? Well, let's
Take a while.
minutes can go really fast or they can take a while. So why don't we have Kate and Katie? We welcome Katie King and Kate Patrick to the meeting annually. They usually meet with us in July. So
Dave Davidson, our other assistant town manager, has a water and sewer rate committee that's going on at 6, so hopefully he'll be able to come in, and otherwise we'll have to stand in for him. So generally speaking, you always ask me to come in to talk about what's going on in town, and then I'm happy to answer any questions, hear your feedback on what you're thinking about should be going on in town. Katie can talk a little bit more about library specific and what we're thinking. There's been a lot of changes in the last year. I mean, it's really amazing how things change. It's not just at the library, but we've had significant turnover in long-term managers all over town. So it's been a real been a real learning curve, remembering how new people are. and making sure that, what's obvious to me is said out loud. I did want to give you a preview. The select board, we're having a presentation next week on our community survey. You probably recall that every 2 years we do a survey of the community run by the National Research Institute. And it's a statistically valid survey. It's actually done by mail on the paper, and it's we get a great response rate. And so we'll be presenting that to the select board next week. The document itself and the PowerPoint will be up on the website right after that, or probably on Friday. But the good news here is that 96% of those respondents rated library services as excellent or good. This is a 4% margin of error. That's pretty much the best year ever. And even more exciting, we have a benchmark across the country. There's 600 jurisdictions that we compare ourselves to nationally, and 353 of them report library services, because some municipalities that's run by counties. So, but that 96% rating was 21st. That's 353. So people really like the library, as you know. One of my colleagues and I walk every Tuesday as a walking meeting, and I think 3 out of 4 times we come to the library. Drop off. So that's the really good news. And the report is it's just another expression of, interestingly, the people who rate Needham as a great place to live, a place to live as good or excellent in the mid-90s, and it's been in the mid-90s since we started the survey in 2008. So it's really interesting is the consistency makes it really even more valid for me. That the same people who are answering a paper survey, they're not the same people. So we did open the survey up as a separate data collection online, and people were able to go on and add their data. So, but the survey document that we're presenting is actually the one that was done by the company. So that was helpful.
And that will be on the website for all towns.
Yeah. In fact, all of them are already.
Yeah.
So, and Cindy will be presenting it for us, because she ran it for us, Cindy Berger-Dallas, and showing the trends over time. So it's just really, it's very interesting.
How many responses did we get?
I don't remember, so I'll have to double check that, because she's been running it, but I don't remember the percentage, but it's always more than they think we should have gotten. Because, survey responses are, they're very hard to get.
Yeah.
I should have had that number, but so, in a lot of ways, what we've been doing, and the select board has asked, really, I think formally for the first time for feedback. We've asked informally in the past, but we sent out a request more than a month ago, and the library did, the trustees did submit feedback to the select board on their goals, which is really helpful. I think that if many boards come together on a certain goal, it's a lot easier to move that goal forward if we can reach consensus on that. So they will be reviewing your feedback when they meet in early August. The interesting thing is that, do you remember how many goals there were? Like 58, 60 goals, something in the 50s. None of them are really coming off, and then everybody wants to add. So we're really struggling with priorities, and it's difficult. So we will be doing that this summer, and you'll hear more from us on that. We're doing a lot of planning. A lot of the planning is involving the built environment around town. We had a downtown streetscape project that redesigned the square, particularly with an emphasis on traffic flow and widening sidewalks and adding amenities. And we were ready to do the next phase, and then after the pandemic, the select board asked us to rethink some of the features in the project. So what we did a few weeks ago is that we presented the board with what the plan was now, and we said, we need more feedback on how we should be updating this plan. We want people who want more biking, we have people who want more walking, they want more, larger sidewalks, no parking, more parking. So it is a big project for us to take up. And so one of the things that we're doing in the interim is we got funding at town meeting for a parking study that would help us determine, and I'm hoping somebody can crystal ball this a little bit and say, is parking going to be the same as it was? pre-pandemic. Our parking lots were full before the pandemic, and now they are not. And so, when you go and take away street parking and then people go back to work and they need the parking spots, it's really unclear. But we're also looking at, frankly, ways that you can pay without a quarter, since there aren't any quarters and there's a national quarter shortage. That's one of the number one things we hear about. It used to be parking and now it's paying for parking. So that's in there. And then also, are there large property owners who might be willing to work with us on, some collaborative efforts to get employee parking out of the parking lots and leave it for retail. So that's a big one that we're working on. We're doing a study on how we're operating the RTS, the transfer station, and that will include whether the town should become a community where there's curbside pickup. There's pros and cons. For years, people didn't want unsightly barrels in the town, and now that so many people contract out their trash, it's really, I don't think that's as big of an issue, although many people love being able to go to the RTS. And so it's also much more expensive if the town is paying for haulers to go to your house to pick up your trash. Right now, you're doing that for us. So, there's naturally a cost to that. So, but it is, I actually worked on that project in the mid-90s, and it was overwhelmingly that people didn't want to switch. And I'm guessing that a lot of opinions are changing on that. That's a study that we're doing. We're also.
Is that also going to be a paper survey as compared to an online?
So it's more of a, I doubt that we will survey online, on paper for that. We'll probably do a series of focus groups. We're going to do community hearings. We will be doing micro polling, but we haven't figured that out yet. I think if the consultants can find a way for us to do that, I think it would be very interesting.
And will people be given a cost estimate for what, how per household, but because, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's
So,
not free,
yeah.
as you mentioned.
But part of the goal of the study is to figure out what that cost estimate is before we can do the survey. But we have a captive audience of people who are already going to the facility, so we can try to get information there, and that would be really great. Another one you may be following if you drive through town is the town common redesign, which we've been working on probably for 6 years. But once you look at it and you see, it looks very scary right now. It's going to be stunning. There's actually a wonderful webpage on our website if you Google it, or you can find it on the Department of Public Works, that shows all of the renderings of what it's going to look like. There's something like 22 new trees going in. The ones we've relocated some of the trees, and the others were either too far diseased or they were invasive species. It's going to be stunning, and there's going to be a lot of amenities like tables and chairs, and if I have my way, a swing, like the ones they have on the Greenway.
What's the time frame for?
It should be substantially complete by the end of the calendar year, but we're saying spring of 23, but we hope people will be able to use it by then. Common project. We have 2 rail trail projects that we're working on. One is that we have concept feasibility for extending the existing rail trail that we have out to Chestnut Street. The trail runs now from essentially the Charles River to High Rock Street, and we're trying to find a way to get it up to the junction essentially. And the select board saw a presentation on that a couple of weeks ago. The other rail trail project that we're working on and we're trying to figure out how to prioritize. We got a state earmark under the federal ARPA money to study extending the rail trail from essentially Webster Street into Newton. I mean, where the train already goes under Honeywell, you can't really, there'd have to be a connection that was on sidewalk. But so we're doing a feasibility as to whether there could be a shared use way between Webster Street to Moon Street and then over the highway and over the river. And those could be in separate chunks. I mean, it would be ideal if we had a way for people to take the commuter rail and get to 557 Highland, which is the new development, may talk about it in a minute, by either walking, jogging, or taking a bike of some kind. It's not very far, actually,
Mhm.
from the commuter rail to the street. Another thing that we are working on is we may have secured funding from the state FY23 budget to study a last mile transportation system that might provide shared use vehicles for seniors and others, maybe who take the commuter rail in and need to get somewhere or to get to various places. This is modeled on a program that's been very successful in Minnesota. And they're finding that their seniors are really using the shared use van, but they've lowered the age to 13 and middle schoolers and high schoolers are using it in drills. So it's fascinating, very cheap, and it's been very successful for doing. So we're looking at whether we can do something like that. Other major projects that we have, we're working on trying to find a way to demolish the buildings at the Ridge Hill facility. The problem with anything that got funded in the last year, prices have gone up, they've gone up, they've gone up, they've gone up. So if you're a town meeting member, you're probably going to see Ridge Hill again for a small overage in October. And that may also be true for the end of road equipment. So those are the two of the buildings that we're working on. Another key priority of the boards is climate, and they've created a climate action plan committee that's going to be putting together climate action plan to help us prioritize our focus. And we've done an awful lot of things in the green and sustainability space, but it hasn't necessarily been focused or coordinated or prioritized. And so the group has coalesced around a first low-hanging fruit being community energy aggregation, which is a system by which the town can help procure an alternate electricity provider for residents and small businesses. And many communities have already done this, and residents can opt out completely and stick with public utility source for their supplier, or they can buy up to energy that's considered greener. So communities typically have 3 tiers. So that's something you might see also coming up in October for us to start the ball rolling on that. I guess there's 2 projects that are ongoing that are significant developments for us. One of them is 100 West Street, which is, you may remember as Avery Manor.
Mhm.
And the town rezoned that for a combination of independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And the owner and the developer and the operator have parted ways, and there's a new plan coming, which they're not intending to do the independent living as part of their model. And so we are working with them to try to figure out a way to provide some mitigation for the town in recognition of the fact that those affordable units were really a really important part of why. Nonetheless, the renovation and beautification of that building will be a real benefit for the Heights, and so everybody's really looking forward to that. And it will meet a community need. The other big project again is 557 Highland Ave, which is the Highland Ave, what is it? Highland Innovation Center. Yeah, 57 is easier to remember. Which is the largest commercial building that will have ever permitted. So yeah, that's saying something.
The old Muzzy site.
Yes.
Just so we're all.
Just so we're all clear where we're at, yes. So that is a project that's moving through permitting, and just a very exciting project. It could really result in significant revenue for the town that we're hoping and we recommend be segregated and allocated toward the school building facilities that we know are a great need for the community. So that's something. And I wanted to leave you before your questions is a reminder about our town's newsletter, which comes out every Thursday by email called the News You Medium. If you don't subscribe, please do. Please send it to your friends. It really has become the local newspaper. Cindy wanted me to point out she's always pushing library events through that newsletter, and we're trying to get our membership subscribers up over 4,000. So if you have a group that you are regularly are in contact with David by email. I do really feel like people very much feel that they have some sense of what's going on. And they also find events, particularly at the library, events, places where we run a lot of events, really. People get a lot of that, so that's the reason. Did you have anything you wanted to add on top of the rundown of what's going on in Needham?
I'm laughing because a colleague thought on my way over to this meeting, she said, how do you prepare for this? And I was like, I brainstorm a list and then I check off everything Kate said. And I see if there's anything left. And so there's one thing. Kate mentioned that there's a climate working group that's been figuring out, climate action plan. There's also a housing working group that has been doing the same on the housing front. So the planning board's largely been leading that, but with a lot of members from other boards. So that kind of work stream has been happening to update a Needham specific housing plan. At the same time, at the state level, we are waiting sometime this summer. So it could be tomorrow, it could be August 31st. For final regulations from the state of zoning requirements for communities that have MBTA service to rezone around more multifamily housing. So that work is kind of on the horizon for us as well.
Sorry, I forgot to have it.
No,
Big one. Hi, Betty.
I'm not knowing what you addressed.
Mostly studies.
Which the library has a study
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
Which the PVPC is looking to just start the process after the special town meeting. Because as the trustees may be aware, there were multiple studies that were approved at the end of town meeting. Which town meeting did enjoy discussing. So a lot has been put on that committee's plate. So they are being methodical and we'll be getting to each of the approved projects to go through the process of hiring a consultant.
So how does that process work in regards to the library's hiring a consultant for the library?
So the PPPC will run the study. The library trustees would designate 2 users for that. And the PPPC always works with a working group.
Mhm.
So typically that's a few people from the library in the departments that, in the department, but in this case, the departments that would be affected. Usually a couple of trustees for an elected board. And they would work through that user group to discuss all the things. So we will need action by the board to designate the user representatives.
And does the PPPC determine which firm will be conducting the study, or is that the group that does that?
All the procurement laws and the procurement process.
Okay.
And the
Yes,
representatives, I'm sorry, the representatives are voting members of the PPPC for that purpose.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So just so I understand, you said what you'll need action from the board to select user representatives now are, and then you said there's usually 2 trustees. Are those 2 different?
So
sets of
the user
people?
representatives are under the bylaw, they're designated by the elected board having jurisdiction over a facility. So I would strongly recommend that you have the director as one of them. Your choice really for the other. The working group could have a couple of other trustees.
Okay, I see. Yeah, great. Oh, Tom.
Yeah, my job is to provide the history. We had the library position done. PBC did that, and we had 2 representatives on that. That met, and then they met with, and they did all the, it was Greg Chester and Amber Fake.
Okay.
Yes.
So, the meetings are open to the public, even though the representative to the addition is Ann and Greg, I actually attended all evening meetings. So you don't get a vote, but you go long enough, they'll start to talk.
Oh, I would absolutely echo if I may. I'm sure that the PPC always entertains feedback from the public.
Oh, absolutely, I did, but
Yeah, you're asking.
it became to the point where if I didn't show up, one would realize it, so.
What an interesting kind of, not coincidences, but sort of a timing question is, we're going to be doing our strategic plan at the library. That's one of the major initiatives for later this year. It'll be interesting to see how that could dovetail together with the space planning study, because certainly the two, there will be some interplay between the two.
Yeah, timing wise, I guess you're kind of raising the question of timing, right, in terms of.
Right, right. If
when
we've got
we-
both going on at the same time, should one be talking to the other? Should we let the strategic plan priorities inform the space plan or vice versa? And that, I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but just something to keep in mind.
I would anticipate that once you're at the point that that a consultant has been brought on board, the consultant clearly is going to want to speak with the library trustees in terms of the study. So
Mhm.
there will be a time that the whole board will have an opportunity to converse with the consultant. Also, the point that was already raised is all the meetings are public. So, and of course, unlike when the library was being built, where you actually had to show up in person, you would be able to view their meetings via Zoom. So it's easier to stay involved. And then the third factor is the designated representatives to the PPC on behalf of the library. I would anticipate would be reporting back every time the trustees are meeting, giving an update of what's going on. And chance that one hasn't been able to follow what's been going on.
You have other questions for our managers, our town managers?
I have a question about the goals that we talked about a couple of meetings ago. I really appreciated the opportunity. I think it was like the first year as a trustee, I became aware of them. My question is about how did those goals came about?
The select board's goals?
Yes. Did they started the process at one point?
So the goals that we sent you for review were the goals they set last summer. So they're gonna take up, what they do when they do their goal setting in the summer is they look at last year's and see what might be done, what might they don't have an interest in anymore, and what needs to continue. And then they try to determine whether there's anything they can add to it. So the goals that were sent for review were last year's, and I don't know exactly where they'll end up this year. But those weren't set for the coming year, they were set for last year.
So did they already meet for the goals for?
They're meeting in August.
Carol, you look like you're.
I had a question, Dave, about the consultant for the strategic plan. Because we're probably going to continue to set aside funds from state aid to pay for the strategic plan consultant. Can you just describe the, depending on the cost, the likely cost, what the required procedure is for getting, is there a required procedure for choosing? I mean, we have to go through the request for
The
proposals or.
To hire the consultant.
for this, if you're seeking a consultant. for the
Depending on the cost.
Yes,
What would be the
and that's the
benchmark?
key is what is the cost, but let's assume that the cost is more than $50,000. There, it is not.
Oh, I hope not.
Okay, if it's not, then
It may
there's
be.
no sense in going into a lengthy description. So something under that, you would prepare a scope of services being sought by that you want the consultant to provide, and you would do outreach via in writing, emails probably the best way of doing that, indicating what services are being sought, how long the duration of the project, the estimated time to take the project, and ask for pricing to do that. And whoever comes back with the lowest pricing and promises to do what it is that you have asked the person to do. Because they don't get to change what you're asking. They have to provide what it is that you're requesting. The lowest price is what is who you select in contract.
The decision is based entirely on lower price.
Yes, that's the law. It's based on the lowest price. Again, the key is the consultant has to do what it is that you've requested. So you put out that we need the strategic plan. It's going to start on November 1st. We need to have a final report by May 1st, May 1st following year. We need you to meet with the committee 6 times. These are the dates that we would have. Now you get a vendor response. I can do what you want, but I can't do every other meeting. But if you give me extra time to do the project, let's say we get it completed by October next year,
So there's no discretion involved in terms of
allow
deciding.
it, allow it.
That's
But they have the lowest price, but another consultant who is higher, but will meet the timeline and the meeting requirements, you can then award the contract to that individual, because the key is it has the lowest price doing what it is that you have asked.
And that's regardless of the dollar amount or at what level?
No, a dollar, once you get to $50,000, then you're into a sealed bid process. There are two ways to approach it. There is again, you write the scope of services and the requirements, and the lowest price wins for the person of the entity that can do the work. Or there's what's known as a request for proposals, where where companies submit a technical proposal, what they're looking to provide to you. There are meetings with the bidders, and you get to weigh who has the most advantageous proposal, weighing them on the technical aspects. After you've evaluated all firms that have submitted bids, they're ranked in terms of the most advantageous to which is advantageous, not advantageous. The prices are then open. If the firm that's the most advantageous is the lowest price, that's easy, award the contract. Contract's awarded. If the firm that's most advantageous is not the lowest price, you can award the contract to that firm. But our justification on state law, on the chief procurement officer, so I would have to write the opinion to state why we're willing to pay more money to hire somebody for the work, which is easy. There are multiple times that has happened. Of course, I would get the feedback from the trustees to write that opinion, but that's only in a situation when it costs us $30,000.
Is there a de minimis amount below which you don't do this at all? And also, if these funds are coming from state aid, is it the same process?
It's the public's money. The only time it doesn't, if it is a donation or a third party that's made determinations of how the money is to be spent. But public money, whether it comes from the federal government, actually their requirements are more stringent. State government, local taxpayers, you have to follow chapter 30. That's the government.
But if it were to come from a private foundation,
Under 10,000.
a private foundation, however, like,
Yeah, if
Like a website.
private dollars are being
Yeah.
funded the project, and it has to fund it all. Let's say, okay, we're gonna use $1,000 of public money and $99,000 of private money.
Mm.
That $1,000 subject
Yeah.
you to the procurement process, which you determine is the cost of $100,000.
Yeah.
So taxpayer money involved automatically means the taxpayer, the state laws come into play. But 100% funded by private money, then you have discretion in terms of how to use even the hiring, the selection process. And of course, needless to say, the library is one of the beneficiaries. Council on Aging is another entity which has support groups that have been able to fund things that within the constraints of Mass General law would not have otherwise somehow.
Dave, the fan is noisy. I heard something about $10,000, but I didn't hear what it was.
No, not to know. The de minimis, which basically there is, you have complete flexity, is if the cost is less than $10,000.
Okay.
There is no formal process you have to follow, and you have discretion of who you hire. If that's,
It's the public cost. So if we had private contributions that brought the public cost under 10,000.
if the total public cost was under 10,000, you have flexibility. If it's public and private cost, and it's still under 10,000, you have no. But if you have, if the cost is more than $10,000 and there's $1 of public money and 99% private money, you still have to follow the rules of the state law 30B, because you're using the taxpayers' money.
And does the process allow any flexibility where if we get a bid from someone who we might prefer for some reason that's higher than another bid, that we can go back and ask them if they would match the lower bid? Is there flexibility in the process that allows for that?
There's some discretion, but you have to tread lightly, because that is exactly why that law was created, is to stop, and specifically to stop elected officials from directing contracts with people. That's one of the foundations of why the Uniform Procurement Act came into effect, is to really stop the ability to direct contracts. Although we have the right to the higher cost under the RFP, I can tell you the Inspector General's office doesn't really like it. They have to allow it because the law says they can do it, but they tend to frown upon it. They tend, if there is a complaint, and particularly if you have a vendor that thought they should have. There's going to be a lot more scrutiny in terms of how that award was done. But I can assure you that Needham has followed the law, certainly in all the time that I have been here. And it's super sensitive to the town of Needham, considering one of the very first cases that the Inspector General got involved in originated in the town of Needham, and it had to do with the Pollock Middle School project. So, and it's still a case file that's on the Inspector General's site that you're free to read. If you
When
want.
was it? When was this?
Back in '92.
Wow.
Yeah, that inspector general report led to the PVPC.
That's correct.
Two more cases, if I might ask. One is, what if we're in a situation where none of the bids meet our expectations? In that case, can we reject all the bids and start the process over?
Yes, the one good thing about the law is you can always reject everything.
Okay,
If no one gets into trouble for rejecting, I don't think that the law requires you to make that disclosure that you have the right to reject any and all bids. So in that respect, in a situation that happens, you probably then want to have a conversation. Why, get some feedback from the vendors, why, what wasn't correct, or why would you work with what we were requesting? And that will probably educate you in terms of going out a second time, in terms of, because perhaps maybe the scope was too broad or too tight, or it could just be that, which we're running into in a lot of situations. There's more work than there are people to do.
yes. Okay, well, I think that answers my question on the second case, which is about what if we determine that we under or over scoped in our initial, that we can.
Yes,
run
we
it
can
again.
always go back and reword it and go out again.
Great, thank you.
Just to follow up on what you said, could I ask?
Yes,
one
Carol.
more? Outreach, you said you probably reach out by email. It's not a published, if you're sending out a list of requirements for this, you said you communicate it by email.
It's published, but I'm sorry, by email, but you got better documentation that you send out the document. In the case of a quote, you can have a dialogue with a quote. You can't have a dialogue with the bid once the bid's released. No conversation until the submission deadline, except for to address questions, which is very important. terms of how the questions have to be presented and how the questions are responded to. But the email, because then you'll have all the documentation in case there are any questions, that it will be clear what it is that we stated, and it will be clear what the vendor had, what the voter had asked, because it's all right.
So there's a publication, but there is this request, and then the vendors contact you and ask to be sent documents? Is that?
No, in the case of a quote, the burden is upon us to find people to do it. We must find a minimum of 3 companies, people do it, and to solicit a quote back. In the case of the sealed bid process, that is we put the document on the town's website, and it's advertised in the newspaper, it's advertised in journal, the Secretary of State's Goods and Services. There are other places that that notice is published, and the burden is upon the bidders to come get the document and submit their bid. And there's no minimum requirement number of bids that you receive. So I often say it's actually easier to do a sealed bid than it is to do a quote, because you actually have to go out and find people that are qualified to do it.
I mean, that's really the crux of it, is the qualifications. And that's why I think we were concerned about the selection, because one thing that we've seen in our initial research for strategic plan consultants is that there's a wide variety of experience. And there are some folks who've done strategic plans, they do them for any sorts of boards, but maybe they don't have that much library experience. And then there's folks who all they do is library strategic plans. And for us, that makes a really big difference, because if you can find someone who focuses at least primarily on libraries, they're going to have a lot more insights, add a lot more value to the process. So it sounds like if it's an RFQ, if it's under 50,000, the people who are sending out those quotes decide which 3, or at least 3 firms to reach out to, and could take factors like that into account when deciding which ones to reach out to.
Correct. You certainly have some control in terms of who you're reaching out to.
Yeah.
And so in that respect. But another important point you just made is you can put in the quotes that we are seeking consultant that has passed
That's right.
successful
You have to define the scope in a way that.
That's correct. So that is where the effort comes in, writing a good scope of services.
And the
And I see a
requirements.
lot of people fail in that
Yeah.
way sometimes. There's a redo when you go back out, because you even discover something that that intellectually you knew you wanted, but you just forgot to write. So the vetting process is important. And so it's back to my initial statement, is that you don't have to award to the lowest price, you have to award to the lowest price that's doing what it is that you asked.
With the
and
qualifications.
With the qualifications that you require.
I think the qualifications is the key there.
Yeah.
That is-
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Great. So other comments or questions for our town managers from the trustees or other people? No? Well, we appreciate your coming. You're welcome to stay, of
Thank you
course.
for
We
inviting
have
us.
lots of exciting.
You wanna go over the minutes?
Oh, yeah.
I have one more comment.
Thanks for
Oh,
coming by.
Tom.
Yes,
By
I
second.
want to thank you again
Oh, boy.
for the wonderful job you did, Katie, Chuck, Dave, and Kate, in through the hiring process.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that.
We're thrilled with
I've
that.
said that before, I've said that before, but I
Thank you
want to
so
say it again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you. Can I move around?
So we have the minutes for June 14th.
Fine.
I assume Jay has taken a look at them as Secretary Jay.
You told me not to work. They won't work.
Jay,
Sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering if you have, you've gone over the minutes and are satisfied, and if anyone else has comments on the minutes
We
from the
have a
January,
wonderful
June
person
14th.
who does a great job with the minutes. It takes very little effort on my part
I'm
to
good, okay.
Which
review.
minutes in the 14th?
January 14th, I mean, June 14th. Have people, any comments?
I have a point of order question.
Yes.
Um, Should I abstain from voting on these since I was not present at either of them? I feel like that's the appropriate thing. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I formally
Makes sense.
abstain from
For
these
the
votes.
first vote, okay, and I'm just seeing, Carol, you have
I
something?
have a few little notes. On page 3, number 5, the last paragraph. Oh, the next to last line in that last paragraph should say overall state aid.
Are you under 5?
Under 5, financial reports.
Yeah,
Financial reports, the last paragraph of number 5.
State use instead of state use, state aid use.
Yeah, state aid use. Just the word added.
Before, but at least.
Before use. And page 4. You just, the heading, remote access policy for board members. I think it really should be town. Remote access policy for board members, add the word town to the heading.
Carol, you mean in public? Is that what you mean? Like the
Needham,
for the remote access for not only the board, but also the public? Is that what you mean?
What we're talking about, that whole topic is the town's proposed.
it's the town's proposed policy for board
town's
members.
Policy, not our
not public.
policy.
Oh, okay. Right.
Was this still proposed at the time we met on June 14th? Had not been solidified.
They were discussing it that evening.
So, the first
same
line
night,
says
right.
the board discussed the
Proposed
new policy.
One question, have any of these draft minutes been circulated yet? Or will any of these appear on the website until they're in final form?
I don't believe we ever upload them until they're approved by the board.
I didn't think so. I didn't think that any of the packets were. I mean, I just for discussion from the June 21st meeting, and I appreciate all of the detail in these minutes, but in the paragraph beginning at.
Are you
9:10
jumping to the special meeting?
Oh, sorry, we're still in.
Yeah,
the-
we're still on the, June 14th
Oh, I'm
regular
sorry.
meeting.
I will hold
Okay,
off
because
until
we're
then.
gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And once we have all, Carol, do you have anything further on this set of
Just in that
minutes?
same paragraph,
Page 4.
same section on page 4. There was the line starts, wanted to go on the record. It's the second paragraph under remote. Limiting you should say the frequency of remote participation by a board member. in the Proposed hybrid model. So adding
Yeah, this is, she's addressing something you said.
Instead of number.
Anna wanted to go on the record.
Yep.
Are you happy with that?
Limiting the frequency of, as that instead of number and.
Repeat that if you don't mind, Carol.
Yeah, that line where it says wanted to go on the record that limiting the, instead of number would be say frequency of remote. And then rather than participants, it would say participation by a board member.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, let's get to that.
Yeah, and then I have a little chicken little stuff here, page 5. Carol, move, under collection development. My motion. Carol, move to ratify
Ratify.
the collection development policy as amended in May. As amended in May, ratifying, so that's, Oh, and then the art, on page 8. Under the art committee. I reported where the 2 artists were chosen. Reported on June 1 meeting where 2 artists were chosen. Instead of the September, it's where 2 artists were chosen. The artists instead of the September artists, they are in September, are not. So.
And there's a third reference to September artists on the very last line.
Yes. And then paragraph. And then, no, it's a reference in the second line, Lori loved it, word collages. That it would will. Say for display. In the cases. Last thing. It's the top of page 9. It's the same section about the arts committee report. Instead of our advocates program, it's advocates exhibit.
Where are you, Carol?
Top of page 9. It's the first line there.
Oh.
The current exhibit is like advocates incorporated. Masks.
I love the masks.
Just that.
Yeah, I see that.
That is it.
I have one.
Anna?
Yes. I don't know if any of you, but the logo is a great addition, but it's printing in the middle of the page, on page 5. So I think I imagine the idea was to have it on the, like the first page.
Well,
like a-
actually, I put it there because that was the second, that would be Kim's decision, but I put
Oh,
it there because
okay.
it was part of the collection
Well,
development
the
policy.
policy itself has that, but we can take it and just make it text.
Okay.
And take out that image.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
So what
oh,
is
That
What I
is
was-
the first
what I was-
beginning of the policy itself.
Yes, yeah, this is like just a copy version of the policy.
What was approved, what was ratified.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I thought
So
the intention was to have like a template of the library logo
I'll
as
just-
as
I'll
a
point it
formal
out.
document.
yeah,
I don't know if
Yeah,
that's-
no, we'll just,
No,
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 but
no.
we don't want a logo. on the
no,
library.
no, it was
not.
just for the policy itself.
I understand that, but I'm saying, since this is a library document, shouldn't it have a logo? I mean,
The minutes
we've never had it. I was just curious. I thought that was what it was.
Is there a letterhead that the
Yeah,
library
that's
uses
what I was
for,
wondering.
For the board of trustees.
Yeah, it's
which
not
is
a
for
style.
correspondence or whatever?
Yes, we use that logo there. That's
You
the
might want to make
library's
the first
logo.
page of the minutes
That-
on the
that's-
letterhead.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay,
That's what I thought that was. I understand what it was, but maybe because, it's an official document. so.
Kim, is that what everybody, if she would do want that? I mean, I don't know who's that decision. I'm happy to do whatever. I
Well, the
just don't-
secretary is kind of in charge of the minutes, so if Jay.
Well, I'm happy to defer to the preferences of the board, but I'm
Yeah.
comfortable if you want.
I mean, do we want to have an informal, it's fine with me if we put that logo on.
First page.
On the first page of the press. I don't feel strongly either way.
But do I understand the reason it's on page 5 is because that was part of the.
They're just
policy
inserting the
as
policy.
Yeah.
It was part of the policy.
it gets like,
I don't think we have ever, I don't recall ever having the text of a.
A letterhead.
policy, A revised policy. going on
Inside the minutes.
Within the minutes, not a bad idea.
It says it has to in the bylaws.
Well. it
So,
hasn't been
okay.
done. It hasn't
So
been
is
done.
that okay or?
I think it's a good idea.
If that
Okay,
bylaws
alright.
say it, that's
Okay.
good.
We were just talking. so we didn't- Okay, and so, yeah, that's the version that was approved. And it says, I believe they say you're supposed to put the approved version in there, right? So that's,
And another way to do it is you can attach it to the minutes so that it would be a separate document.
that's true. Does that make more sense? I don't know.
I think it does.
Because Kim and I talked about this, I had been reading the bylaws and talking to Kim, just make
Yeah.
sure that it was in the right set of minutes, but, I can do either, I just want to make
It
sure.
may be- and, Again, I don't feel strongly about this, but to respond to Anna's question, it might be that that going forward, we would attach the policy to the minutes, and that way you'd have,
You have to read your bylaws.
do we have, well, that's still included
No,
in
it's
the
still
minutes.
included in the
correct?
minutes, but at the
Okay.
end, as
Say
opposed
the
to
board
embedded
approved
in the
the
middle.
policy as attached as exhibit A.
Everybody okay with that?
I'll move
Move to accept the minutes of
accept the
July,
minutes
of
as,
June
modified.
14th. Second, okay, all in favor, voice vote, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
I don't know if you have to abstain from that one, Earhart. The process for the letter.
Okay, so now we have a minute for the interview meeting of June 22, the trustees special meeting of June 21st. And I don't know if anybody had any specific changes. I have one, but
Thought on that.
Yep.
Or, okay, why don't you go?
I just had a change on page 3, halfway down the page, there's the paragraph that starts with at 9:10 p.m. Yep. Okay, so the second sentence it starts, the board felt that Stephanie and Laura were, I would cross out not yet ready and put in, were potentially good candidates and should be encouraged to
This is
volunteer.
your comment.
I didn't
My-
personally feel they were not yet ready. I felt like they were potentially good candidates, but, so I wouldn't say the board felt they were not ready. Unless other people want.
My thought is, this was actually the paragraph I was going to mention as well.
Mhm.
I don't want to put anybody off from future board service. And typically, I've reviewed town minutes from many other departments. They typically don't go into this level of detail on deliberations. They
And the
usually just kind of
deliberations
talk
about
it.
individual
And
candidates.
I admit I had the
Yeah.
same reservations
well,
when I
that's
was
sort of what I was
reviewing it. I
feeling
wasn't
too, I
sure
think.
whether we should
We don't want
leave that paragraph in or not.
My thought is keep the first sentence that at 9:10 p.m. Delete the rest of the paragraph and add, instead of the remainder of the paragraph, the board then discussed the relative merits of each candidate.
I had the same reservation.
Okay.
Also, and we could also add that we discussed the next steps, the process to notify candidates, that make it, so more about the procedures to follow as opposed to the deliberations. But I think that I had a concern with some of the comments here that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay, are we all feeling that works to eliminate the specific
What about the
comments?
details as far as for each candidate themselves?
No, we don't.
We
That's
don't-
what we're trying to get.
No, well, Rob's just talking about that final paragraph in which we're evaluating the candidates. The question is whether we want to include all the details in the numbers, after, as compared to just a more general sentence.
I'm more agnostic, personally, I'm more agnostic on the questions, because I think, that's more just, I guess I'm not as concerned with the answers.
It's less subjective.
Right.
It's,
Yeah,
Would something at the end, for those who were not there and wanted to look at this, would something at the end, instead of this paragraph at 9:10 p.m. that summed up that you felt there were a good slate of candidates overall, it was a tough decision.
The board was
La-di-la.
impressed by the candidates.
Yeah, something to speak to your
Mhm.
deliberation, because I think that does need to have.
Anybody want to formulate or should we formulate it now? The board,
I would say it was impressed by the many, I think that candidates really varied and they were not all at the same level, so.
the board was impressed by the quality and variety of candidates. Okay,
Yep.
We're
and-
hopeful they would participate in volunteer service. in
and
the library.
encourage them.
Encourage the candidates who were not selected.
But also, I don't know how to phrase this, but there was one candidate that clearly said that they were not going to run. So that candidate, we are lumping everyone. We are not encouraging this person. So how do there's a nuance that needs to be acknowledged.
I think we did ask each of the candidates to get involved. regardless of,
I think that is, that it makes, is more generic and broader than to for them to run for board positions, to get involved is, yes,
Yeah, with friends and LFA.
whichever
Yeah,
way
yeah,
they
yeah,
want to volunteer.
And are you asking whether or not we should include something that signals specific criteria, especially, to future folks that might be applying in a situation like this? Because if that was a clear criterion that was made in this decision, that might be useful public knowledge for future applicants to a position like this.
Yeah, we had, in the description, it was clearly stated that the candidates needed to consider running. And we just had a situation where one of the candidates said no.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, we already told you about it, So it was a little odd. So I don't feel like we need to reiterate it.
Okay.
It was already, I don't know, it's a tricky one.
I suppose there could have been a situation where no one else applied and you needed somebody to fill a slot for a few months. And
I guess,
you might have
yeah.
said, well, they'll do.
But I appreciate the honesty though, that they was
Yeah.
forthcoming about it. So that was helpful.
Okay, so if we want to, we're going to strike that paragraph, right? And we'll replace it with, and people feel free to edit, the board was impressed by the quality and variety of candidates and encouraged those not selected to participate in the organizations that support the library, such as the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation.
Or in any capacity, there could be volunteers. there could be-
In any capacity.
Yeah.
The board was impressed by the quality and variety of the candidates and were encouraged
Encouraged those
those
not,
not selected to
selected.
volunteer.
To consider for, future
Consider.
involvement with the library activities.
do we have any other suggestions or changes to the minutes of June 21 special meeting? Okay,
So,
good.
what happened with this language, the board discussed the relative merits of the candidates. That's, you had suggested that at one point, okay? As a change.
I didn't
I think
suggest putting
that,
that in.
that was mine, but
Yours,
this
okay.
case kind of, I'm on board with case language.
So this is
instead of
fine,
that.
we'll just get rid of that.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the minutes of June 21?
So,
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, passed unanimously.
No. wait,
No
no.
abstentions.
Oh, we want to extend.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Who was the second? 'Cause I heard
oh,
several
voting problem is fine.
You almost for the same time, Anna, so.
Yeah.
And one other thing,
Oh, you have another
well,
change?
select board is
Select board should be 2 words.
Vote again. I know. I'm kind of joking.
it's just a little bit.
Okay, so off we go to the director's report, Kim.
Okay, so Wi-Fi is back, as you all hopefully already know. Thank you to Danielle Tawa for orchestrating the installation with our vendor. We've been really excited to see that patrons are still heavily borrowing our laptops and hotspots. So I think that sustained use just tells us people didn't really realize we had those previous to this. And now they're very comfortable using them all around the buildings and taking the hotspots home, of course, too. We had our fiscal year close wrap up nicely. And at this point, our purchase orders and contracts are mostly in place. We're still waiting for some signatures throughout the town on some of the contract pieces, but we're in really good shape. And I wanted to give a particular thanks to Manny LeCount and Rand Cronin and Jenna White, who really made this successful. They just did a really great job of getting everything settled. And you'll see in our financial report as well, we spent down really well. So we'll go over that a little bit later. Danielle Tawa also worked with Digital Commonwealth to orchestrate a pickup of yearbooks for digitization. That is a program kind of through Boston Public Library, where they digitize some of our archival materials to make it accessible to people online. This is our third round of sending things their way. They had a little, quite the pause after COVID, and quite the backlog to work through. So they just picked up almost all of our yearbooks, from the 1800s to 2012 to digitize, which are really helpful for genealogy projects and things like that.
Can I just ask,
Yes.
is there a concern with privacy by putting those on the internet? So such recent ones, I know some libraries do not make them, so easily accessible.
A lot of them,
searchable.
sure, are 10 years is usually the time frame that people will say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and some
I was
places do
gonna
like
say 100
immediate.
years, maybe it should be
Oh,
like
no.
1912, or,
No.
something like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna take a lot of time to get those back. I've done projects with Digital Commonwealth in the past when I was a special collections librarian, and even in those good times, it still took a very long time to get our collections back. And with this many items, we don't really have time frame. So we'll get them when we get them.
Carol, do you have any particular, oh, Tom, I was wondering,
I have
ask
a question
Carol,
about
what
how
the
do we
privacy.
fund digital content?
I think it's funded through a grant of some sort, but we pay for Digital Commonwealth, which is like $100 a year or something. And that gets us the ability to be in this queue to have them
So
digitize
that
our-
money comes out of, because
the technology budget.
but it's only $100 to have all the yearbooks done.
It's something like that, yep. And it's not specifically to have those done.
Because
It's-
I know that
Yeah.
being involved with archive and things like this.
Yeah.
We could, one of the things we could use CPC money for is historic preservation.
Yes,
And that would be a good way to free up some of our money to do more historic preservation. Get it from,
Isn't there a line in the state budget for library and VLC? Isn't there a line for this digital project?
I believe so, but I'm not sure of their specific finances or how they're financed. I just know how we work with them. So I can look into it and kind of send some info out.
We'll soon know what's in our state budget.
Yes.
Pretty soon. Quite soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yes. So summer reading has kicked off. It's definitely in full swing. We had 45 adults sign up so far on Beanstack. That is as of, like over a week ago. So I think there've been several more registrants. And the children's department had a really lovely event on June 28th with an animal program, which hopefully you saw a picture of on Hometown Weekly, the front page there. And I held a snake. It was very exciting. I have pictures of all the kids. It was really cute. The snake was named Pikachu, and the volunteer who got to hold the snake during the program was wearing a little Pikachu dress, and so it was very adorable. Yes, so that was really lovely. We've done 60 take and make craft kits, which were distributed to adults and teens, and that was thanks to Sarah Breen and Aaron Bassett. So those have continued to just be really popular for people, this kind of like passive activities, and we're looking, for more ways to do things like that. Robin Flynn held 6 one-on-one tech help sessions with patrons this past month. Those are going very well. We're really excited. In September, Dimitri and Robin are going to start going out to, now I'm forgetting the name of the place, so Dimitri, you can speak up.
We're going to go to North Hill in September. So it's going to be myself, Karen Donaghy. We're going to address the materials by mail program, and we're also going to take Robin Flynn with us so she can do some tech help with handheld devices. And we'll talk a little bit about our electronic resources, what we could do for those folks from that perspective. And we're hoping that after we have a success, and we haven't done anything since before the pandemic like this. So we're hoping that after that, we could expand to the CAF and maybe any other area facilities where we serve that population.
How about the senior center?
That's a cat.
That's the CAF. Yeah, that's our next place that we're going to try.
Yeah. So the tech help sessions have been very popular, and that's what we're looking to expand to do. to take it outside of the building as well.
Great.
Rand Cronin, who is the head of technical services, worked hard this month to get a project out while she was also helping run the fiscal close. Our new books will now have a sticker on them that indicates that they're actually new, which previous to that, you had to look inside the cover.
So is it on there now?
Yeah,
New books?
yeah.
Great.
So it's really exciting. It's obviously helps in terms of browsability, but it also helps staff when they're processing items as they come back to quickly and easily put things in the right place. So I'm very excited because that was driving me kind of up a wall.
You have
Great.
a note here that you're putting a month, just like we've done with the book sale. A month will come in, a month sticker?
Like it'll say January and you'll know that that is a new book from this past January.
Right.
And so things will stay there for about 6 months, the same as they are now. But
6 months.
it'll help you to identify what's the newest stuff because people do care about that and
Mhm.
love to find, you know, what came out in July that's here already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very excited about that. And then Paula Dugan and Veronica McCarthy in children's both conducted, jointly together, 20 school visits that they did as individuals, not to get confusing. But they reached about 512 students to talk about summer reading. So that was really successful. It was really nice to get them back out to the schools and a big,
Yeah,
kind of
great
push.
outreach. Thank you.
yeah, so we were really excited about that. And, you know, the attendance at the programs and everything has been really great. So
This is elementary, right?
yes, sorry. So let's see, for personnel, we had Mimi Aziz hired to start as the part-time technical services assistant. They actually started today. So that was very nice to get that department fully rounded out. Julia Haas no longer works in Needham. Their last day was about 2 weeks ago, I would say. I don't remember the date, sorry. And hiring for that and for a previous person in circulation who left last month. Hiring will begin for both of those positions once I have a set schedule from Deborah, the head of the department, to kind of reconfigure what people are working where. So we'll be doing some hiring soon. So for gifts, we had a gift to the Permanent Donation Fund from Catherine Polishow, who donated $30 in memory of Anita Marie Love. And I would ask for a vote to approve the gift.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
That part- This is your first vote?
That's your first.
That was my first.
$30. Thank you.
We make it a roll call.
Okay, so then we are on to building and grounds. If you have not been up to the second floor, you can now see this modular office that we got to expand the space that Reference has for staff and for storage. So that will free up the third study room finally. They are working on getting that stuff out of the third study room quickly. Our teen librarian had been using that space, I think throughout COVID, and then it just kind of kept going. And she definitely needed the room. So we got, you know, some partitions and cabinets that are locked cabinets and things like that to provide storage so we can really get that third room back up and running. And so that was really great. Angel put in a lot of effort. We got extra people to come from the buildings department. And so that was a big thanks to them because they have a lot of projects happening in the summer with schools, and they came out right away and did this with us. So that was excellent. We still have 2 items pending about the sink area and the pantry here in the community room, and then the door alarms being fixed on the staircases. And so there's not been movement on those. With these, do I have this on order? I'm sorry. No, I don't. Okay, sorry, financial report. With state aid, with regular spending on overdrive and canopy, which closed out those purchase orders. And we had the reimbursement processed for refreshments from our April staff day finally went through the trust fund, the state aid. I'm not sure why it had taken so long to finally hit our account, but it did get credited now. So with state aid, you're looking pretty good. And we're kind of right where we thought we would be at the end of the fiscal year, so that's great. With trust funds, we had a disbursement from Hatch Fund for $504.89 for children's books from Scholastic, The Child's World, and Rosen Publishing. The Carly Fund, there was a disbursement of $173.77 for children's books from Baker and Taylor. The Tolman Fund, we had a disbursement of $1,000 from the Fiber Speaker Series. And Will Goose Fund had a disbursement of $654.50 for Sarah Green for her attendance of the MLA conference. And then from the Permanent Donation Fund, we had a disbursement of $1,403.61, which went to young adult playaways, young adult books, and a Kindle purchased from Amazon to be awarded as a prize in the summer reading program. That was a lovely.
And the encumbered column, I noticed we have some pretty significant encumbrances on trust funds. So the permanent donation fund, 57,000, is that? We have a general description of what that is.
So the Permanent Donation Fund is only monies that get donated specifically to that fund, and they get
Yep.
donated typically for a specific purpose,
Mhm.
usually. But
Okay,
then
so they're
there's
encumbered
lots of money
because they're
that,
donated for something.
and there's lots of money that sits there and then gains interest, and so we have this big balance that is just years and years of unspent balance.
Okay, but it's encumbered in some way, reserved for particular purchases. Is that why it's listed under encumbered?
I think it's listed in that column because that's where Anne had it, and we just round out, like, we take it out of there every time. So I'm not
Okay.
sure what it would be.
Why, yeah, okay. Carol,
Like,
do you have
there's
any
nothing
insight on
that
that? I know
that's-
Carol has
Yeah.
a little more
You know,
grasp of the trust
I
fund.
don't think I know about the interest part of it. Sometimes money is given for a certain purpose,
Mhm.
you know, whether it's from the foundation or the friends, and then they put the money, it gets parked there until you actually use it for
Yeah.
whatever it was given, whatever the project or purchase it was given for.
Yeah.
But I don't know where the interest.
Well, because we have a balance of $119,000 in that account. And so I think it just continues to accrue. And so year after year, we're adding money into it when we do that rollover in November and we get the interest report from the previous fiscal year. That money kind of just goes back into that balance. And so I'm not super clear on why this previous encumbrance is listed that way. Because when we do get money, it's usually something like you've seen, and I've only seen things like maybe up to $100 going there, but for very specific things that you're purchasing right away. So I don't really know what's hanging out there in terms of the encumbrance.
And that's
It's
the
just
same,
kind
I
of
noticed on Will Goose, there's a
cash.
20,000 encumbrance, and I'm really just wondering if that is for a particular thing or.
Yes, those were things that were voted on. Anything else outside of the permanent donation fund that's encumbered, you all voted on at some point. Yeah,
Somehow not yet spent.
correct, yeah.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
continuing my journey in trying to understand this question.
Yes, it is a journey.
Can I ask a question going back to state aid?
Yes.
spending? The overdraft spending was really quite high.
Yes,
The previous month it was $200. It looks like you're asking for about $2,000 a month, more or less, averaged out for the upcoming year.
sorry. Oh, for the upcoming?
Yeah, you're.
Yeah, let me get that.
For the month.
Something or whatever. Do you know why it was so high or?
At the end of the year?
No, I'm talking about your, as of July 7th. for the previous year.
Right, so at the end of the fiscal year, you're talking about
I'm
the
talking about
$4,000?
Yeah, 40, yeah.
Yes, that's because the purchase order still had that amount available to spend in it. And the purchase order was based on what had been encumbered. So they just hadn't spent it out throughout the fiscal year. So at the end of the fiscal year, we were able to say, okay, we still have this much left in a purchase order for this that had been voted on here and encumbered in the state aid that just needed to be spent.
So that was just for the month, right? Not for the, that's not
Correct.
cumulative for the year. So I
No,
think that
that's-
might be the difference is that the 4257 was for the month, whereas the 24,000 is for the full year.
Right, no.
Are
but-
you-
But the previous month, it was about $200, and
Yep.
based on what you asked for next year, I would assume it's sort of like 2,000 is more or less.
Yes. So when you have a month that only spends like 200, there's a balance left over, right? So that's where we spent
just kinda
out the
making up.
remaining balance that we had to use up that money for the fiscal year.
You don't really, I was gonna say, I don't know that you really do have to feel that way about the state aid, the way you do for your appropriated budget, because it goes away. This money doesn't go away. It's
Right.
still
I think
available.
we don't want to get to a place where it's like the trust funds and there's a ton of stuff just rolling over that we have to add the balances all the time. So we wanted to spend out the purchase order because if you don't spend out the purchase order, it's just gonna go back in the pot of unencumbered. And so we figured, well, it's been encumbered. We have whatever the balance is going to be starting for the fiscal year. And we'll start again then.
Okay.
So that was the way.
I mean, it seems
Really
like, a fair thing to do, but I don't think it's necessary to do it.
Yes,
the
yeah.
way it really kind of is with the.
Well, isn't
appropriated
overdrive a
budget.
set amount every year that we have to pay? And it's been
This is for
paid.
the Advantage part. of it.
Overdrive.
Yes,
Is
that's
this
for
Advantage?
Advantage, yes.
Okay. It's Overdrive Advantage.
But we
Yeah.
do have, I believe, a contract because it is over a certain amount. So I believe it gets contracted the same way. So
But now it's in our appropriated budget to pay the basic.
for basic, yes.
And then this is.
Yeah.
And we
But-
paid, we would have paid that long ago. I mean, we did pay basic out of here, but we
Right.
paid it like
Mhm.
in August of 22 or 21 or something. For the
Right.
whole year at once, I think.
But when we say we're gonna spend, like if you vote at the beginning of the fiscal year to say we're gonna spend $20,000 on Overdrive Advantage, we then have a contract with Overdrive that we make so that we can have a purchase order. So we are then telling them we're gonna spend that money.
Oh, So you
Yes.
really have to, or you lose it.
Yeah. Well, not lose it. I mean,
I mean,
we
you
have
don't
the
have
money
any
here,
benefit of
You're
it.
obliged to
but like,
just pay
we
it.
want to meet that,
I
yeah,
see.
that obligation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there is a reason to do that, actually.
Yes, I want to check with Jenna to make sure that we definitely have a contract. And so anything over a certain amount that we're gonna spend, you have to have a contract. And I believe that Overdrive Advantage, we do contract with them to say, okay, we voted on 20,000, that's what the contract is. Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
And if Gerhard, just so you know, Overdrive is what we pay the Minuteman Library Network to have electronic book access, right? And Advantage is books. You explain that. Yeah, what is the difference between Overdrive and Overdrive Advantage?
So Overdrive Basic is something that every library in Minuteman pays a certain amount towards. Previously, we've been paying that out of state aid this coming fiscal year. That is now in our municipal operating budget. So we will only be paying for Advantage titles out of state aid. And the Advantage titles are titles where we get a choice of buying a certain, more copies of something that's popular with our patrons, whereas Overdrive Basic, that's the subscription for the whole thing. So the whole network gets access to the same titles. So if we wanted to decrease a wait list for our patrons on a certain title, we could buy a bunch of extra copies, things like that.
Right.
So that's what it's used for.
So this comes up
So
a
it's
lot,
like
just so it's worth
the
knowing
Libby app
the
is the
difference
main-
between the two.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And that's the Libby app. Jenna. The
Libby,
Over-
yeah, the
Yeah,
Libby-
the
the
Overdrive
Libby
app
app.
itself. I think it's an honor.
The advantage is,
All of it. Yeah, all of Overdrive. At this point, it's Libby.
so what's wrong?
Overdrive app is.
The Overdrive app
So it's the
itself.
Libby app. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it used to be.
Yes.
I was just going to congratulate you on spending down the appropriated budget very nicely.
Oh, yes. We tried to do our best, and I was disappointed because about a week before this, when I got the budget versus actual, it was looking like we were only gonna give back like 0.16%, but then some things weren't gonna ship in time, so we had to cancel those orders. So it went up to 1.9% for our expenses going back, but that's still really excellent, and I'm very happy with that. I was not convinced that we were going to get there. But it was great. And then you'll see the little asterisk for the increase of 23,000 and whatnot for salaries on that budget and expenditure document. for whatever reason, that came in June. And it was to make up for the class and comp study that was done last summer by the town, where they changed the schedule that our part-time workers, well, actually, that all of our workers were on. And in order to fund that, they were supposed to give us a certain amount of money. We had been asking about it throughout the spring and told, well, if you don't need it, you probably won't see it. And we didn't need it because with Anne leaving and all of that, there were big budget changes. So our salary line was fine. So we were kind of surprised to see that they did actually put it through at the end of the year. So that 5.5% is still a good number, but it's higher than we were thinking. And also because we didn't need that extra money added in. So just a little, like in terms of, just explaining that note there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Where am I? So, oh, yes, okay.
Statistical report.
Statistical reports, thank you. Okay. So, with the stats report, we had, you know, a rise in circulation, or sorry, a slight decrease in circulation from the previous month. So from April to May, it went down 0.84%. So nothing concerning. Still happy, and I'm sure, you know, the next few months where we have summer reading going on, starting towards the end of June, things like that. We'll see those numbers go up. People have been extremely interested in the magazine offerings on Libby and downloading those. Those numbers were really wild. It was up 480%.
So what is that? Why is there suddenly a big interest? in
Vacation time, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Because I mean, this is May too, so it's not actually, I have no idea. Someone found it and took out all of them. I'm not sure. But
That doesn't cost us
we'll take it.
anything extra that somebody's downloading a lot of it, does it?
No, not unless we're paying for something as an advantage title. But for magazines, that's not something we spend that on. Yeah.
A couple of interesting trends in there, just because, you know, year over year, 2021.
Yeah.
A big portion of that, I'm assuming this is calendar year 2021, or no, it's fiscal year, but a part of that year was, you know, the library was shut down. It's interesting that downloadable books are down this year, which kind of makes sense now that people can get their physical books more easily. But the really interesting one is that downloadable audio continues to grow. So remember, that's been a growth category the past couple of years. It's interesting that continued to take off even after the library reopened.
That's not a surprise to me, because it may be that some people were introduced to that over the COVID and decided that they like that as an alternative or as a supplement to their.
Yeah. Another effect of COVID.
Yeah, or if you work from home and you can kind of listen to something while you do whatever you're doing.
Well, you
I
might
don't
see
know.
increases in commuting
Yeah.
and folks
Yeah.
listening to them at home.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
People go back to them, or maybe they didn't know about them before, but, you know, using it for community.
This is purely anecdotal, but I've gotten into the habit of streaming and reading, audio books and reading to make it go faster. So sometimes I read and sometimes I'm reading while I'm walking, and, you know,
Turbocharged.
and you get the benefits of both the pleasure of reading as well as sometimes the recorded narrations are really add something to the experience.
Yeah, it's true. Cool. The big deal. Okay, so we registered more people in May than April, which is great. And our study room usage and computer usage is just climbing. And it'll be interesting, I think, to see if the computer usage goes down now that Wi-Fi is back.
Yeah.
So really the kind of June and July numbers will show that, I think. Program attendance was a bit lower in April for adults and children's, but YA saw a great number of attendance, or a great increase in attendance, even though there were less programs offered than the previous month. A lot of them were study session type things, and they were really fun, where, you know, Rocket the dog had come to some of them and things like that that you heard about in last month's report. But since the Circ stats are the month behind, I think that's what it's reflecting.
We can't get Rocket the dog to come to the trustee meetings.
You know what? If you want to have a special guest, Kay and I will work on that.
I need dog therapy.
Yes. yeah, so overall, I'm very happy with our numbers, and we're doing great in the number. So I think that is the end of my stuff, and then we're on to new business.
Okay.
One question
Oh.
on the, is the 3D printer being used at all?
Occasionally, it's not getting a lot of use. at the
So
moment.
that's why they're no,
What was your
Yeah,
question?
the 3D printer,
the 3D printer.
yeah.
Is there any way to do like a program around 3D printer to get people back into it?
Yeah, that's a
Yes,
big
it
deal.
requires the staff, I think, yeah,
Might be something
there
to think about.
is, they've moved it behind the staff area now
Mm.
because it was in an open area where it's very easy to touch.
It's in the
and-
STEM room. It was in the STEM room, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if that's part of why. It's also not a very large, high capacity 3D printer. So I wonder if that's somewhat part of it. Because I'm not sure what they've done for programming with it before, but I'd like to
Yeah.
see something happen.
Might be something.
There
to
there was,
interesting.
a while back, there was, I remember discussing, the many ways that folks were gonna approach it. I think it was pre-COVID maybe, that's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking. I don't know if you
Yeah.
if you remember that we were kind of thinking ahead and expecting demand, but it seems like it hasn't been the case.
That's right. Yeah, there is a big document that is probably an actual policy
Yeah,
that I've
that's
read,
what I
that,
meant.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that
what
does
was-
spell out all the different things you have to do to be able to use it. So that is probably also a deterrent.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just
yes.
was wondering.
Might
because
be
it was
worth
a
running
big
a
deal.
little, some kind of little program just to kind of
Yeah,
help
kick
help
it off
people learn
again.
how to use it
Yeah,
again.
totally. I think they've also become fairly accessible at the consumer level. And I
Yeah.
think what we have is a consumer level product. So I'm just, yeah,
Yeah, people
not
can buy
super
them if they
surprised.
want one. Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing, the charging station, it
Mhm.
has, is there a plan to count or are we not keeping track of?
You know, I'm not sure what happened there because I highly doubt there were 0 uses
Yes, exactly.
because I always see it in use. So I'll
Okay.
follow up on that.
Is that a difficult one to count though, just because people
I
might
was
pop the
wondering
device
about
in?
that, what's the,
That's what I don't think they get a
They don't need
report
it.
from the machine. I think they have to manually are looking at it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I can find that out.
Because if it's a burden, then
Yeah.
it's almost not worth.
that's what I
Yeah,
was
Yeah,
wondering.
right.
what's
Is
the
how
point?
important is it to know?
I know, because we know it gets used and I think it's been worth the value that, I think it was an LFN
I think it was,
grant.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I'm sure they were counting it to try and prove that use, but I think now it's so consistently used that I'm not sure we have to still sell it to the LFN.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kim, for your excellent report and all the interesting things happening at the library. On new business, we have an item on the open meeting law, which is kind of a shifting, constantly changing thing at the moment. Oh, actually, I'm thinking, are we talking about the remote meeting law, but
This
something
is,
different?
this is
Yeah.
a specific thing that Carol had suggested we discuss, I think, about.
Oh, yes.
The email, I just printed it out because we don't have the capability
I
to
don't
share
know
the
if we
screen.
need- I didn't specifically envision that we need to discuss it here, but we can, just, the Division of Open Government of the AG's, the Massachusetts Attorney General's office sends out an email every month, and they focus, they include decisions that were made during the month, but also usually have a highlight of some area of the open meeting law that is helpful and refers to cases and different scenarios where they decided one way or another there was or was not a violation of the law. But I thought particularly because this month was talking about serial communications. And, this is, I think, a little bit of a trap because, if you speak with a quorum, enough that, involve a quorum of whatever board you're on, separately about the same thing, essentially you're discussing. And that-
Deliberating as the,
Yeah, deliberating, they call it serial communication. If you shouldn't do it all at once and you shouldn't do it, separately and separate little pieces, or you shouldn't ask Kim to have that conversation with all the separate trustees and report back. that kind of thing. Also, just not give your opinion on something, even not asking for anyone to respond. That this opinion should be voiced during a meeting, an open meeting.
You're
It's a
talking
good
about it with a
reminder.
quorum, with a quorum
with
in
a
a serial
quorum, yeah.
communication, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you can give your opinion to an
Yeah.
individual, another individual member.
That's right,
of the
unless you
trustees,
just
but
don't
not a
go bing,
quorum.
bing, 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 do
Yeah.
the same conversation with everyone.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder, is
Yep.
all, I thought,
Yeah.
to all of us, because it's easy to fall in that trap.
But it was helpful to know that a response is not needed. All you have to do is send an email to a quorum, and if it contains that information, it counts as deliberation.
If it's an opinion.
Right, if it's
An
opinion,
opinion
not
that's
like
voiced.
anything that
If it's
counts as
just
business.
information.
Right, it doesn't have to be
There's
what we
difference.
would see as a two-way dialogue, like an email
Mhm.
response. It just, if you just blast it out to everybody, that is considered
You
deliberation.
can give out information, but not deliberation or opinion.
Right.
That's
So,
what you may see when we start emailing sometimes, they won't respond to you, so don't take it.
the reason is that you can't respond to a quorum.
That's
Um,
right.
You don't, you reply
And
at all.
it came up, actually, it got very difficult in planning the whole special meeting for interviewing of candidates, because since it was something that we don't do all the time, we had to kind of decide how we were going to hold this meeting, and and that became somewhat difficult to operate within, in what cases was this information and logistical information, or is it a deliberation to plan how to run a meeting? I mean, it was a hard process in terms of the law, of the open meeting
Yeah.
law.
Yeah, it's inconvenient.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Very inefficient, but that is,
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
difficult, it was a struggle to try to
Yeah.
put that in place.
Yeah.
It worked.
What's
Yeah.
that?
It
no,
worked.
you totally-
It
you
worked.
got us, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
And that is something, when I was reading this too, I touched base with Katie to make sure that, that I understood it too, but she was very confident that I am able to email all of you to say, to pass along information or the thinking on something. What I can't do, or what we can't do, is talk, the same person talking to individuals to get their opinions, then coming back to say, or I guess to shape it based on those opinions, kind of, like, I can talk to individual trustees, get their feedback on a policy or something like that, and then present based on that, but we didn't have consensus around it, and so that is a defining.
Right, so you're not allowed to
So
put
that
together
is
a
still
consensus.
acceptable, yeah, that is
To
acceptable to do.
lobby,
Yeah.
for you.
Or, yeah, or to like get feedback if you had concerns about a policy between meetings, like,
You can get
we can
feedback,
actually talk
but you
about that.
can't build a
Yes,
consensus.
Right.
That's
Right.
the difference.
that's correct.
Yeah, I
Okay,
found
it's
it,
all very.
yeah,
tricky.
one more thing,
Yeah.
thank you, Carol, for
Yeah.
that. I attended that session last week, they had a session, open meeting, if you follow this link that you shared, they were giving, they did a webinar, and
With town council.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and there's another one, August 9th, is during the day. I think it's the same day that is the trustee meeting is August 9th. I'm bringing it up because I don't know, Faith, if you have any chance to also attend the webinar, because there are specific instructions for minutes.
For the one coming up.
Yes, I mean, it's the same one, they're
Yeah.
just repeating.
Okay.
They talk about open meeting law, which is the main subject, but they also discuss minutes. And the gist of it is that we don't need to be as thorough as the capture, is not transcription, it's
Mhm.
capturing the themes, which I think they're kind of
Mhm.
starting to go towards that, right? As opposed to word play by play, word by word. So it might be helpful, I don't
They
know.
provide samples of.
Don't recall. It's a webinar, so it wasn't, it was
There
more
were
of a lecture.
slides, though. I mean,
But the
side by
website
side.
does have many links, so
Mhm.
that it's just more of a little bit
Can
of
you
a
send
digging.
me, I did not, I tried to use that link to just view the webinar. It was the same night we were doing the interview.
Yes, right, yeah.
So I didn't get to watch it.
Oh, this was last week.
So So this is not the
Okay,
same
I'll
thing.
I'll
This is
follow
a new
it.
one?
It's not
Yeah.
the same.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Christine is the
On
one
our-
I was talking about, the town council.
yeah, if you want to share that with,
No,
No,
this is,
that's okay.
That would be
this
great.
is for Maura Healy, the Attorney General, just the state.
Oh.
not Christine,
Okay.
not the town council.
Oh, I see. All right, no, I wasn't even aware of that. Probably right.
I followed your link and it took me there. That's why, I'll follow.
Oh, well, then,
I'll send you the link.
Oh, this,
I hope that's okay.
it's literally this one. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So we got a bunch of stuff, so let's move on. Review of smoking policy, I think Kim
Sure.
has the brief.
Yes,
maybe
so-
about that.
Yeah, thank you. We have a smoking policy that is separate from the appropriate behaviors policy. And I would like to discuss suspending that policy because it is already covered in both the current appropriate patron behavior policy and the recommended, proposed one, I guess.
Can you point us
So-
to where in the proposed appropriate behavior policy it's mentions
Sure.
covers
It's,
smoking?
yes, number 2D is smoking, vaping, electronic cigarettes, illegal drugs, or consumption of alcohol are not allowed.
So that's even broader than the smoking policy,
Right.
which is good. So there,
Yeah,
it's
so I just don't see it as needing to be its own policy at this point.
You know, then if that's the case, maybe we should put in the library or on library grounds. I mean, smoking is different from having cigarettes in your pocket. So, I mean, I guess that's,
Yeah,
you know.
are you talking about in the appropriate behavior?
Well, yeah, and you're saying that the smoking policy is essentially covered by the appropriate
Yep,
behavior
Yes,
policy, but it's not quite the same.
the appropriate behavior policy actually applies to in the building or on library grounds.
that's correct.
Right, but the language here suggests possession. It's not just use.
That's,
it does. It says smoking, that's a verb, that's an action.
Yeah.
Vaping,
Smoking,
and
vaping.
electronic cigarettes.
Use of electronic cigarettes. I think
So
we
we
should
should
do.
add that. as something
Yeah.
I suppose.
Use of, yeah.
I mean, vaping and electronic cigarettes are the same thing.
We had use of.
Yeah, I think the use of,
Mm-hmm.
would clarify it.
Okay.
Sure.
And does use of apply to illegal drugs as well?
I don't want them to have them.
Possession would be illegal then too, so
It's a real.
you can't bring them here even if you're not going to.
They're already illegal.
Yeah.
That's covered.
I guess there are drugs that are legal to possess, but illegal to use in certain circumstances.
Well, marijuana is legal in private, but not in public.
Yeah.
So
So,
Yeah, it's federally illegal.
So, yeah,
Rob, where does it say that this is, applies to the grounds, not just the library building?
indeed.
In section 2D at the
the
end.
end of the last two words, library grounds, and D, 2D.
I'm probably looking at the wrong draft.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I am looking at the wrong draft. We added that. Okay. Got it. We added it last time. That was a comment at the last meeting. I'm looking at the wrong one. You know, could I just make a request that these drafts show up with, you know, draft written, you know, across them in
Sure.
gray,
Or draft number at the top.
and then
Draft
somewhere on
date,
it,
draft
the date of the
Date.
revision.
Yeah.
And finally, not to put the date you hope that it will be approved or anticipate it will be approved until it actually is approved.
Sure.
Because it just, you know, once it's printed, you can't tell what's what,
That's
you
true.
know, which thing you have. And the other thing is that once something is approved, it would be very helpful to just shoot that out to everybody with the approval date on it and just say like for your policy books, trustees. You know.
Sure.
I would like that too.
That would
I know
be-
you post it, you put it up on the website, but
I
it also
noticed
would be good.
that Katie, when she sent out the draft for the remote meetings, town policy, she had this draft, it was in gray, I'm sure it's some setting on your
Yeah,
computer.
It's a watermark.
Use
Yeah.
the one there.
It was very helpful to have that.
In that regard,
Tom?
we should change the July 12th to July.
Approve.
Yeah, we're not on that yet, though.
Yeah, we're not, right, we're right now, we're talking about eliminating the separate smoking policy.
Yeah, so do we want to,
We want to take, we need a motion.
So
All right.
moved.
do we want to suspend it or eliminate it?
So the motion would be to do away with, eliminate the smoking policy. Isn't that what
Eliminate it
we're
because
talking
it's
about?
redundant.
What's that?
Right, it's not coming back, so yeah, I would move to eliminate it.
I believe that's-
And second,
Second.
any further discussion on eliminating the smoking policy and, using what's in the behavior policy? No? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of eliminating the smoking policy? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye, okay. All opposed? Okay, passed unanimously. All right, so then we have, the Wyeth policy. This is kind of an interesting thing. Kim, you want to
Sure.
put her finger on this?
Well, so we have this policy that says we can, the paintings are available for loan to museums or other organizations. I am asking for a temporary suspension of this policy because there is current interest in loaning, and we have really no guidelines or best practices for what would qualify as, adequate security, the things that are listed here, like adequate
Transportation
security.
process.
Yeah, the whole thing. It makes me deeply uncomfortable to have this kind of sitting on the books when I know that the Wyeth Museum or house was purchased recently, and there has been, certainly not official interest, but there have been requests or discussions about whether they could borrow our stuff. Our paintings are worth a lot. They have very good security attached to each of them individually, all the ones hanging in our building. And I really would love to suspend this and look into it further, to get kind of some best practices and things and see what it would even really require to be able to loan them, to determine then, do we want to loan them at all? Do we want to have a, just must be approved by the board and then have our own best practices? Like, I just would like us to have some time to consider that, and work on it this fall.
You want
Do
to
we-
wait until we replace and think about it and replace it? Is there something about this?
Yeah, we
policy?
basically
Want to
suspend the
suspend
policy.
it temporarily, so we could remove it from our website and not have it be inactive.
What is the reason behind it?
What is the
I
reason?
mean, you just said that's why you wanted to do it, but is there a problem with having this in the board, on the books?
Yes, people are interested in borrowing them actively,
And we're not equipped to.
and we're not ready for that.
Well, who has someone made a request recently?
There have been requests made on behalf of the Wyeth house that was recently purchased, starting to be a museum, whatever their thing is. So they have made unofficial inquiries into whether or not they can borrow our paintings.
That Michael Knight.
It is.
Anna?
Could we just have a call and not loan them? And then end of story, or is there a reason
We
why
could.
we have to?
I mean, as it-
That could be what we decide in the future, but, and I mean, it does say like all requests have to be approved.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
it lists, just that, I think the openness of it, that, yes, they're available. If you have adequate security, well, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. I don't think any of us know what that means exactly, so I'd like time to figure that out.
Okay. So you're suggesting that actually there is incorrect language here, because we don't believe then that the paintings are available for loan, because we don't have a policy to evaluate loans that we would give. And so that would actually suggest that they're not available. So that would qualify for a suspension if we believe that this is actually inaccurate language, that we have paintings that are available.
It gives people the wrong idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
We're not
that's
Implies
ready
that-
to-
What if the
this
policy,
implies that they're for the taking, and I don't feel that they accurately.
what if the temporary policy is simply all requests to borrow must be approved by the library board of trustees, period? That's it, one line.
So a change to the policy itself, I would have to bring to you next month. So a temporary suspension
Got it.
while we figure it out and
So
before we
if
might
we
get a
temporarily
request.
suspend, then we have no policy,
Yep.
right? And so if we got an official request,
You don't need- That's right.
we don't,
We're not bound by a policy.
we're not bound by a policy to.
Where this policy, someone can come to us and say, well, it says they're available and like
Right.
push us.
Yes,
Right.
And
I
I,
Okay.
understand.
This creates a presumption that they are available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Subject
says
to these
right there.
criteria.
yeah, versus you don't walk into any space that has art hanging, go, hey, I want to borrow that.
Says they
Like
are
this
available.
tells you, oh, those are available, like,
And this could be organizations or individuals,
you
right?
could, yes.
So that's
No.
not,
Museums. and
Well, it says other
Paintings are
organizations.
available to the, for loans to museums and other organizations.
Mhm.
It's not for individuals.
It's organizations.
Yeah.
Not
But and
individuals.
other organizations, whatever they may be.
Right.
That's pretty broad, extremely broad.
Well, I remember when we put this policy in.
Mhm.
Yep.
The Farnsworth Museum or something in Maine, had requested, had asked it, and we put it forth, and we were very, significant what they had to do. That's why those things are out there. We weren't going to do this.
did we vote?
We did.
But that was to an actual museum, right?
Yeah,
Not like
Farnsworth.
a house that is not set up for that yet.
No, believe me,
Yeah.
if the situation that, the Wyatt House, the Wyatt,
Mhm.
thing, which is, I don't know how they could provide more security that would be suitable for us, for me to say yes.
Okay, well, that's comforting.
You do not think they could,
Well,
I don't know anything about.
But how do we evaluate, that's what I don't,
Yeah, I mean, I think that I personally would like to see a more developed policy in terms of what our requirements would be in terms of security and transportation, but not just
Insurance.
security, but also protection of the property so that it's not damaged. What are the standards? What are the industry standards right now? The best practices for transporting artwork that, as I've been researching this question on the worth, and I think I sent around something to you. I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at it. I just sent it out today, but there was a theft of 6 Wyeth paintings in LA several years ago and they're worth $1 to $2 million a piece. And I also checked on Sotheby's and Christie's. These are potentially $1 million plus artworks. So I think we need to be super careful about, not that we don't want to lend them out, but I think it would be a good moment to take a pause and do a little research.
yeah, I think, so I think also the town would have to be involved because they're actually town assets. And I think they would also have to get involved. And this policy doesn't even discuss that. But it's not truly a board decision either. Like, if we said yes, the next step I think would be going through Chris Heath, and they would have to look at the insurance policies and all the things. And like, I just don't, personally, I would love to never see them go out. Because I think the risk is very high for ruining partnership relationships in the town if something does go wrong. And it's just not really worth it. I'd love to host programs here with those partner organizations and things like that. But it makes me very uncomfortable that we have a policy that says they're all available for the taking. So that's my case. You guys can,
What
motion
these
do we
paintings
need?
were donated to the town rather than to the library.
what?
The paintings, the artwork was donated to the town rather than to the
Well,
library.
we're a town organization and they are covered by the town's insurance policy, so the town would have to be involved with lending them out as well.
Like if you donate something to the school department, it would be town property. Like the
Yeah,
school
it's not-
department is the separate entity that.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
One of the paintings up there belongs to the school.
Yes, there are a couple that say on them
Yeah.
on
Some
loan from
Some are
school.
on permanent loan from the Wyatt family.
So it can be allocated among different town departments, but not.
Yeah.
Yes, they're now actually all owned by the library.
The Houghton Mifflin kids carrying the flag, the Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We just had to go through them today actually for the town to check off that, yes, we still have all these town assets. So,
And so I guess the question would be is, what is the right way to do this? Can we vote to temporarily suspend our lending policy with the target date for coming back with a proposed more developed policy, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly more comfortable hearing everyone's take on it, that if a request was made, that we're all seem to be sort of on the same page about the security required and the things required that would that would get us to a yes vote even. So if we just want to keep it as is, where, you know, the board has to approve it, then that's fine. But yeah, I think I'm just sort of uncomfortable with the idea that we have a policy that indicates they're available when I don't know that we really.
You know, maybe.
Was there any indication, informal indication, how long they wanted them for?
We don't know.
Was it for a special exhibit or?
They
The
just
phosphorus
want meetings.
exhibit was a special limited exhibit, you know, for a certain retrospective or something like that. I don't know.
They,
It seems like something that is so, every situation is so unique
Mhm.
that having one policy, I'm just wondering what the policy gains us, because this is something that the board and ultimately the town should be considering in every unique circumstance. And there might be concerns with some venues that are different than with others. This kind of, in a sense, I see this as limiting us in what we can consider with these requests.
Well, also, you know, I think it's sort of the opposite. It says that sort of the opposite of what we're really thinking, which is that only in very rare circumstances are the paintings available for loan to museums and other organizations. I mean, isn't that really what we're saying?
What is the risk of simply saying any request is subject to approval by the trustees?
It's already
That's in there.
Yeah, but, and get rid of everything else.
I'd like to get rid of that first sentence. Yeah, the Board of the Library. I mean, I guess the question is tonight, do we want to reshape this policy tonight, or do we just want to suspend it and rewrite it?
Can we do
Can we-
that?
can we
If I
yeah.
didn't send you a proposal,
Can we vote to?
I just think we suggest that, hey, the director works with revising the thing to meet the,
And temporarily
to
suspend
meet,
this?
to make clarify, or, you know, our concern. Any
Yeah, so
concern.
this is no longer valid policy if we were to vote for that tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we don't know what's going, but we can revise policies any day,
Right.
you know.
But the point is, we're not ready to figure out what our
We
new
don't know what it's
policy
gonna
is.
be
So in the
yet.
meantime, I think Kim is suggesting that we remove the policy.
I think since the whole request that to borrow paintings must be approved by the library trustees, I don't know why we have to suspend it.
Well,
okay. I mean, that's
So-
for you to.
So what I'm hearing, Tom, is that if a request comes our way, we're probably going to decline it because we have all these questions about security, insurance, et cetera, and that's where it ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The other
that's-
option is to have, is there a process for requesting? Because that could be also a kind of document, you know, and we can be very specific about how are you planning to ensure this, where, you know, but so that we get a kind of like an application.
So it's a little bit of online research that I did for there are a couple of different museums do have, you know, an application.
So
Borrow
that
with all the, you know.
for them to think it
list
through,
of
you know,
questions.
yeah, we need it for this time, this period of time, how are you going to insure it? Who is your agent, so on, I don't know, whatever.
Right, a lot. So Carol, the art
Carol, what do
committee is going to
No,
kind of
not
look
as
into this a
not
little
as a
bit?
committee,
Not as
no,
a committee.
because we have to meet.
Right, you have to read.
We're just not going to do it that way, but I asked Vicki Garvey to look into the Worcester Art Museum, if she knows
How can I
somebody
help you with something?
who might know who to talk with there, and I'm trying to get in touch with somebody.
Oh. Just gather some information.
Just to.
about-
Good point, good point, Tom.
About lending.
Absolutely.
Just be, you know, just doing a little footwork for Kim, really.
Yeah, to gather some information to
gather,
answer some of these questions.
An application form.
Yeah. So I guess I personally would like to suspend, I mean, just my Todd, is to suspend this policy until we come up with a more clearly defined policy. Because it says so straightforwardly that we agreed to, paintings are available for loan. I mean, I just feel like
As
that's,
part of the suspension, we can simply say, in the meantime, any requests are subject to approval by the Board of Trustees and leave it at that.
There's also the last paragraph, which is about reproduction, not about following. Actually,
true.
separate issue.
Yeah,
That's another piece.
so, yeah, so if we suspended the policy, we'd be suspending that as well.
Which may not matter in terms of intellectual property law. Jay might be our expert on that.
But it seems to me that's easy also to say that any request for loans or any other use is subject to approval. In the meantime, we have something that's in effect while we're waiting to refine the policy.
So in other words, that leave this in effect.
No, saying we're suspending the policy, you know, and in the meantime, the policy is simply that any request for a loan or to use this is subject to approval of the Board of Trustees. Without any implications that if you meet certain conditions, you're likely to be approved or anything like that. Because otherwise, you don't have, I feel like you're better off simply saying that it requires approval of some sort rather than having no policy at all for this limited period of time of, I suppose, 1 month until we come up with a more
Might go
refined
longer,
policy.
you know.
No, I think it'll be more than a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does somebody want to make,
Just a
Make
second question.
Yeah?
Is this actually a temporary policy or is this just a revision of the policy?
That's my question. So, I mean, usually we revise a policy, we vote on it the next month, and, but if we just want to lift the policy, suspend, I would think we could just simply suspend in anticipation of revision process.
Personally, I think suspension makes sense. You know, I know that, you know, in the interim, we're not gonna do anything with these without us deciding it. And I think having this just kind of off the radar is probably better than having a temporary policy that may be different than what we ultimately put into place.
does someone want to put a motion forth to suspend?
So moved.
So just so we know what the motion is. So the motion is to suspend the NCY paintings policy temporarily until, do we want to set a timeline?
Indefinitely. They'll give Elias time.
Yeah.
Pending board, so suspended
Review.
pending board review of revisions to the
Yeah.
policy.
That makes sense, everybody.
Immediately, you know, as of now.
Oh, yeah.
And that needs to be taken down from the website.
So that, yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of, we have a second for suspending the policy temporarily, immediately. Yes, Carol?
Pending review by the trustees.
Pending review by the trustees. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I guess that was a unanimous vote to suspend. All right,
Okay, thank you. So the next item is the state aid budget. So this is the suggested spending for fiscal year 23. The beginning balance is $110,475.81, which includes our fiscal year 22 receipt of state aid money, for which there's a policy that we do not spend that money in the year in which it's received. So that 110 includes that. So most of these are the same items that we had last year. The changes would be allocating more money to the strategic plan consultant search. I am feeling fairly confident we're not going to go anywhere near that number. But I felt it was probably best to just encumber that if needed. We have the staff training and travel, which is, the same amount from before. Assabet software, that number I believe went up slightly because they increased their prices, which we had a separate vote on to, to make up for about a month or two ago, from whatever that was. And then the revitalization trust fund, which I believe is for the banners that we have around town.
Which are up now.
Yes. So it seemed like it was a recurring annual cost, so we have it here.
That's just for like putting up and taking down, right? To the,
Yeah, and there's a long acronym for it, but yes, it's the Needham Cultural Restoration something trust fund. It's like, yeah,
revitalization.
NRC, yeah.
So just so I understand, this is essentially your list of things that you are proposing we spend state aid on in the current fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it matches most of what the encumbrances were for fiscal year 22, with the exception of the strategic planning consultant going up to a larger amount.
And also, didn't overdrive basic come out of state aid?
It did,
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, and
gone.
we-
That's
yes,
gone. right?
Yep, that is gone.
And so this is fiscal year 21 library salaries.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
That's gonna
Okay.
be, that's for packing and unpacking?
That's
or-
for 23.
Or is that Sunday hour?
That's,
extended hours?
yeah, that's,
Not a lot of money.
my understanding is that it was not actually paying for full position. It was there if we needed it for overage for that position. And I'd like to make it more general so that we,
For what position though? Is it for packing and unpacking interlibrary loans, or is this for the?
not really. It was kind of just there as a, in case we needed it to cover shifts for people. It wasn't actually being used in that way.
For part-timers, though, for sure, because there's no benefits.
Right, yes.
Do we want to
We've
spell
never
it out?
had to use it. It was there and sort of had it there as a placeholder, as a safety. And over the last couple of years, I was talking to Jen about it this morning. We haven't had to use it in the last, since we've been doing it 2 or 3 years.
I'd like to keep it.
Okay.
Can we clarify it a little bit, because library salaries seems a little odd to have there. Could it be something much more, get a little more specific about part-time, unexpected part-time staff expenses, or something? You would come up with the wording.
Yes, sorry, I just basically deleted the 19 hours a week for delivery line that was part of it from the previous one and didn't really,
Yeah, pay attention. to the
yeah.
language,
So yeah, what would make sense?
I mean, you're saying it's probably part-time,
Part-time coverage,
part-time coverage of personnel expenses. or something.
additional, maybe just additional part-time
Because library
coverage.
salary sounds like you're paying full-time staff out of this budget, which is
No.
not really. what we
Sure.
want, right?
Would additional part-time coverage,
Additional part-time coverage.
like as a
Yeah,
note, make sense?
yeah.
I don't think we'll dip into it really, but it's nice to have there as a safety net as we're
Yeah.
trying to cover different.
I think it was originally put in there, and we did pilot program.
Pilot programs.
There's maybe packing and unpacking of,
It said that, but we weren't actually using it.
no, I know.
So yeah.
Was it Sunday hours? or-
Yes.
Those Sunday hours.
Yeah.
And, we
Standard
did
hours.
pilot programs, and we put out of state aid. and It
Yes.
was always under a line, fiscal year 21 library salary. We did that for both opening at 9 o'clock rather than 10 o'clock.
Okay,
Oh,
and we
wow.
did it for-
so that was a different situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we could just have some language that is,
sure.
explanatory.
Yeah, I would guess I would add a parentheses additional part-time coverage, like they had because the way it was listed before was like fiscal year 21 library salaries, parentheses, 19 hours a week delivery. So if I just had parentheses additional part-time coverage,
Is that, are people okay with that?
Amenable.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
It would be
The same thing for fiscal 21 World Cat. It should be
Oh,
23.
goodness, thank you.
you.
And Anna just had a good, she also caught that I had fiscal year 21 World Cap instead of fiscal year 23 OCLC.
Okay.
So I'll update that as well.
Do you need to vote on this tonight?
I was presenting it for vote, yes.
Any further questions or discussion?
I move to accept with those, just changes in description.
Okay. And I guess okay, maybe we have a second, and then I have.
Second.
Okay. So the only thing I'm wondering is, okay, so we got a total of 109 proposed, and we have a balance of 110. So essentially, this would be using the full balance. Okay.
If
Assuming
Spent.
that we're
Yeah.
spending all the
Yes.
full amount for everything.
Okay.
So we
Like
need
the-
to do it.
It's sort of calling for us to use the full amount.
Yes.
Which I know it's not binding. Okay, so are people ready for a vote, or is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting Kim's, the director's proposed state aid suggested spending for FY 2023? Say aye. Aye.
This is a budget, though. This is, Kim does not need to come back to us to ask if she wants to spend these lines. Right? I mean, that's the idea, is that you have a budget.
Oh,
You have
yes, you know, but
Discuss individual.
okay.
so
All opposed? No, okay, that's passed. Unanimously.
Two.
What happens to the remaining $600?
Sorry?
What happens to the remaining $600 that's not budgeted from the beginning balance?
We don't talk about it ever again because finance committee will pay attention. It is there for our use throughout the year if something comes up. I would ask for a vote to encumber that money for
Got it.
something.
Right.
So I tried to get as close to the,
Yeah, right. Okay,
close to the balance as possible.
and we have, okay, so state old business appropriate behavior policy, so we've gone over that the last two meetings, and so we're ready to, if there's any, first, is there any further discussion? Have people had a chance to finish reading it and feel comfortable with it after our last two meetings? The final, Kim's are good, the final.
With that one minor change that we made earlier, use of electronic cigarettes, I'm good with it.
Oh, the use of, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
2D. And then I just wanted to bring up one thing in number 11. I don't think we talked about this, but talking about fundraising on library property.
Yeah.
For library benefit and things. There's Nita. I don't know if it's going to come back. It's just it happened during the pandemic, but what they did for several years in a row was to sell their buttons, good for townwide activities and New Year's Meeting, at a table right outside in the lobby, even though the activities that were held at the library were funded by the library and you did not need to have a button to go in and enjoy these programs because they're already funded by us. So that is essentially a fundraising activity for something that doesn't.
For New Year's meeting.
The library.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if we need to think about how this would.
We've always sold those buttons at the circulation
At the
desk.
desk as
Yes.
well.
So
Yeah.
that's,
So,
So that violates the policy.
well,
It
so the
says-
previous policy had the same language, but I think maybe the pieces that it's connected to the library, which is the language that's in there.
We have a little bit of wiggle room there if it's connected to the library.
But we're
Which
not
we're
getting
doing in
any
Yeah, that's
funds.
a tenuous, it's connected in the sense that the library is participating in New Year's Eve, even if
Yeah.
we are funding it in the sense that we're funding the programs.
And we are not requiring anybody to buy one of those buttons to come in.
Yeah.
Although there was a problem. then.
Yeah, they created confusion for patrons
No,
because they
it
thought
wasn't
they had to buy a
confusion, they
button.
drew people away.
Yeah,
was just
it was
volunteer.
a
which is
big
not
issue
allowed.
a
It
few
never
years in a row.
happened again.
But that was remedied.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
sounds like, is that something that we want to discuss when New Year's Needham, if it happens again, that we would not want to allow them to? do
oh,
that?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Not sell buttons out here. in
Well,
front of
not
the-
sell buttons, or if they're gonna sell them, they have to make it very clear that it has nothing to do with getting into this. New Year's
Okay,
Eve.
now that's-
So does that have to do with
I
this
think we did. I
line?
think we put a big sign up. Didn't we put a sign up?
It was still confusing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of,
It said that we were, do not need a button to. appoint
I
a meeting.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't see why we need to sell
You're
here.
right.
The year following.
Why do we
year,
have to sell
people were
buttons here?
turned away.
And I don't think
Yeah,
it-
gay.
So are we wanting to
Gay.
change the,
So question about the language.
So the one year we had the issue was the one year I was not here managing it.
No, you know, that
And I apologize for that one because I couldn't get a plane out in time. But they are made very clear that nothing, we tell everyone no buttons, no buttons, no buttons. They want to purchase buttons for other locations. I will tell you that town hall sells buttons. So do other locations in town buildings sell buttons for this event, as it is quasi-town event. I do not know if it will happen again, as the current head of the committee is now on the planning board.
That's
And I don't
right,
think he's got the time to do that.
that's right,
So-
very proper.
yeah, I guess I don't want to,
We're
are we
gonna-
wanting to adjust this line based on this one activity that happened that we, like, or can we, or does this line stand in what we want it to be overall? And then we need to adjust how we're having people here in the future.
The latter, that's
The
what.
line.
Or do we want to
Stand.
say, except, we want to
Except.
qualify number 11 as saying, unless specifically authorized by the trustees or something. I suppose we could do that and then consider New Year's Needham as perhaps an exception.
I suppose we could add that unless specifically authorized by the trustees.
Means another week.
It is something that they've always asked permission to do when they send the request asking us to participate. They do ask to be able to sell buttons at the same time, because I tell them they have to. So it does come before the board of trustees about.
So we don't.
I
we
do
can-
also feel like, I don't want to get super sidetracked into New Year's Eve thing because I don't know that
Right, I
that's
know.
this. But I also think if I came to an event here for New Year's Needham, knowing I didn't need a button, but I wanted to buy one for other events elsewhere in town, I would probably be a little annoyed that I could not get one while here. So just for consideration in the future.
Well,
However,
that's a
that's not
decision
relevant
that- yeah.
necessarily to
Let's-
this. Okay, so
So do we want to leave the policy is, or do you want to add?
like, or is connected to a strong enough wiggle space, I guess.
That gives us a degree of discretion
Mm.
in terms of determining whether something is connected to the library.
So we're talking about adding unless authorized by the library board of trustees. Is that what we're saying?
Number
Number
11.
11.
Are you saying to leave it as is,
Put-
Rob, or?
Yeah.
I would leave it as is.
Leave it as is. Okay. I thought you were saying to put it in. Okay. I mean, I'm happy to leave it in. Other people leave it out.
We can always permit things if we bring them into the meeting, right, if we're asked in advance.
Yeah,
We
And we
can,
can make an
Yeah.
exception.
we can make an exception during a meeting.
Yeah, okay.
And you can always ask for a waiver.
Yeah,
Right?
all right, let's. approve
Okay,
this
so
one.
we're agreed to leave it as is. So
Yep.
we're about to vote on. Okay, so a motion
Can
to
I,
approve.
I'm
the-
sorry, before you just,
Yep.
one thing to be aware of is the Friends were thinking about making bags available for sale. I just want to make sure there's nothing about this that would be inconsistent.
Yeah,
No,
that,
That's
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 the
fundraising
library,
connected to
right?
the library.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, that's
Same
absolutely.
as the foundation having a gala.
And the date will be June 19th, not June 9th. I mean, July 9th.
Yeah, I'll definitely address that.
So I can't remember, do we have a motion on the table?
No.
Does someone move to accept the,
Move to,
with that one, with the one amendment of used and use of electronic cigarettes?
And cutting out vaping, so electronic cigarettes is the same.
No.
That would stay in.
No,
Okay, that's
food,
right.
yeah.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you. Great. And we have, okay, strategic plan. Update.
So
Robin,
I worked with Dave to discuss many of the things that he talked to you all about today. And also have been talking to a lot of other directors to find out how they've done things, continue to get names of consultants, and what they actually paid them, because that has been a big question mark. Rob and Jay and I are going to meet on Friday morning to discuss that further. So there's no big updates for now. It was just learning that process and what would be required and how we might be able to work around that.
and is the general thoughts to stay, I mean, he made very clear that going over 50,000 would be a whole level.
That's not.
I
going
think
to
you
happen.
can get like
Yeah, we should
20
be able
plans
to-
for that, so I don't think we're going there.
Okay.
But I think there are gonna be some opportunities to stay under 10,000. So with Jay and Rob, we'll discuss those on Friday, and I'd like to get their take as my working group on whether we wanna go that direction or not. Yeah.
Okay. And I think Tom, yeah,
I know the last time we did this, it was a last minute thing because of the circumstances. But we did hire a consultant. I know it was very minimal.
It was nowhere near.
But we'd already been we're well into the process
Yeah.
of when it happened last.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
year.
so I did talk with, we had a couple of people we had discussed the possibility of opening up a discussion of sort of a brainstorming session for the trustees, perhaps at the September meeting, and partly inspired by having Earhart on board. It's time to talk a little bit about the libraries of the future in terms of Needham specifically. What kind of innovations might we be hoping to see? What our ideas that we want to put on the table, just as not as any kind of binding proposals, but more as just ideas that can be part of included in the strategic plan process, and give the trustees a chance to come forth with their ideas, to gather resources that address the libraries of the future and share them. And so that's something that I'd like to put out there that we might do in September, and let people have time to kind of think about it and come to the table at our September meeting, not the next meeting, September meeting, prepared to kind of talk about our vision of the Needham Library for the future.
Do we have a timeline for trying to get a draft scope of service together?
We don't know if we'll need a scope of service at this point, so we'll discuss on Friday whether that's a need or not.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, under any circumstances, by September, we'll have a consultant retained. And that will be, the plan will be rolling along to some degree at that point. Ideally, maybe, I don't know if it'd be possible the September meeting to have that consultant present, or they can always just watch that portion of the meeting at a later point.
So,
But can you explain why you think it might not be necessary to have a scope of service?
because we might be under $10,000.
I see.
Yeah. So I was thinking of what Kay was suggesting as a good precursor to a focus group that will be, well, a few focus groups, so we don't have a quorum issue, but that the consultant would definitely be working with the trustees to get their feedback as part of the actual
Process.
official process of the strategic planning work. And so this felt like a good idea in terms of getting some consensus, figuring out different ideas. I mean, you don't have to have consensus for that stuff, right?
Right.
Like you're able to
just get some-
participate as individuals, but yeah, it seemed like I don't know. When you suggested it sounded fine to me as something separate from the official participation in the strategic planning process.
Yeah.
This could be, the genesis of some ideas that might later
Sure.
be used, but not,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is not direct input into the process.
Yeah, I mean, as the elected you know, we
Right.
represent the townspeople and we're elected by the townspeople. So, you know, it's a good time to, in the beginning of a process like this to kind of brainstorm. And, you know, I hope people would come at least somewhat prepared with some ideas or strategies.
One comment I have concerns the possibility that it's going to be under 10,000. What happens if at some point along the way we decide to expand the scope of services so that we would not be able to expand the scope of services to go above 10,000?
We would have to do the work with staff.
We'll talk about
Okay.
The staff would have to do the work.
Yeah, like if through any of this, like say we were at thinking 45,000 and then somehow went to 50, like we can't do that because we haven't gone through the bidding process for that amount. So if we are saying we're gonna stay under 10,000, we're gonna stay under 10,000, and any additional work would be things that they would train Dimitri and I and other staff to facilitate.
And is there, has there been discussion amongst your strategic plan group about going to the Friends or the Foundation or, you know, or other sources?
No, I think that's something I'd like to discuss with them on Friday, at our meeting Friday. We haven't met in a bit, so.
Okay.
So that's it for the update. There's
And,
not a-
and as Dave made if clear tonight, that if we stay, want to stay under 10,000, if we bring in outside money, that catapults us above.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
problem, right?
So we
Can't
can do
mix.
both
You
if
can't
it's gonna
mix.
go over. Yeah,
So is that everything on the strategic plan update?
yes.
Okay, do we have anything tonight on the equity and inclusion resolution?
We have what's in just, you know, the list that's here for the report. They were cataloging Farside books in children's, purchasing a bunch of EV material and diverse fiction for young adults. There was the Pride Month and Juneteenth display in June that was done in collaboration with the Needham Human Rights Committee. I think it was our second year working with them, and that went really well. And then we displayed DEI and Pride Month materials, like handouts and posters for Canopy and Hoopla as well.
And is the book reading group, Needham Connects, that's probably suspended for the summer?
Yeah, we will reconvene probably maybe in August, but we are thinking about collaborating with Gay Allen as a, there is a program across multiple libraries. So,
Yes,
yes,
thank you, Mr. Nixon. We will be getting books for that.
Yes.
It's in the budget. So that will be coming shortly. I will tell you that the evening book group is going to be doing it. So we would also like Needham Connects to do it also, if you think the book is appropriate.
yeah, I think it is. It's
So is
the
this like a townwide read?
It is actually regional wide. It's the Metro West readers.
No, I know, but I mean.
But
for
yes,
me,
it is a
I'm-
one
Yes.
book.
Yes, it's one book.
Yes.
And this is like a Zoom book?
There
group?
will be a Zoom presentation with the author. They're also doing it as a live event out in Sudbury, but they will be putting it as hybrid on Zoom, and we will be showcasing it here in the community room the evening that it happens.
Oh,
So we'll show it here.
What book is it?
Thank you, Mr. Nixon by Gish Jen. Brand new book that just came out this past spring.
a question about DEI, the equity and inclusion. So I noticed in the June newsletter, there were multiple events regarding to LGBTQ themes. Would they be, should they be in there?
I could have put them there, yeah. A lot of the libraries are still continuing to do activities on Zoom, and some of them are opening them up to other libraries. So we've been participating in that. I've got a few more events coming up. But yeah, I probably should have reported those two
Yeah,
events.
because they are, I think it
All
was
right,
a great fabulous.
I will
panel.
give them for an agenda.
I report what's reported to me for this. Yeah,
Oh,
so they-
okay,
they-
okay, yeah, no, but, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I missed it. I was
Okay.
sick at that point, so it did not get into the report. But yeah, there'll be a few more coming up too.
Thank you.
So are any trustees that attend something on the DEI side? should send an email to him before the next meeting, but this is like in July, this is what happened in June. This is, the report is for June, Kim,
Yes.
so it's month by month. Right,
So
so,
actually, yeah.
And I think we had actually said people would just bring it up during this section of the meeting if they wanted to have it reported in the minutes.
So I'm actually not late on it, because it would go to.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Okay, is there news from the Library and Arts Exhibits Committee, Carol?
we haven't met, as I mentioned earlier, Vicky Garvey, who's one member of the committee, is doing a little footwork for Kim as far as borrowing, the museum loans of artwork, just so to see what other institutions do in their past to loan.
Thank you for her. Yeah.
And right now, there's an exhibit of masks by this organization called Advocates Inc. And essentially, each mask was a project with participants in this organization that serves people with I think
Mental health
mostly
disabilities.
mental health, behavioral disabilities. But there's a staff member named Eric somebody, and one of the participants worked on each, studied each culture, where the mask came from, and they copied the mask. Anyway, a terrific exhibit upstairs.
It looks
so I
wonderful.
Hope you get a chance to look. And I was really stunned by how well some of the things that are that small worked on this huge wall. It really worked quite well.
Let's just say that the fact that the wall's getting painted next month saved us, because it meant that we use tape to pull down the wires. So they can hang off
So they
the
didn't
wall.
twist in the
It
wind.
does look very good.
It does, it came out very well, and I can tell you that the Advocates Inc. people did come over to see the exhibit, and they're very pleased.
Oh,
It
great.
was great. Yeah, really
That's
was
nice
great.
that they came.
And
Yes.
so then the plan is the wall will be painted this month? That's
It will
still
be
the plan?
painted in August, first 3 weeks in August, it will get painted, and then Nancy von Broekhoven is coming in with
September.
President Van Broekhoven. Is coming in August 25th, and I will be hanging her exhibit because I will be gone the first week and a half of
In September.
September.
So
So I
she'll
want to
be
get the
through
exhibit out
September.
before I depart.
Sounds good.
And then, we move on from there, but that's enough for tonight.
Okay.
The rest of the year's plan.
Friends of the library, anything, Jay, do you have anything worth reporting?
No.
That's it?
No.
And then Library Foundation, Joan Smith is not here tonight. She did send a little bit of information, which I did not.
I've got that right here if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
So just two brief updates. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make their last meeting due to illness, but right now they have 18 inscription purchases for upstairs, which is very promising. And their investment company is rebalancing the portfolio.
I have a question. There's like two different subscription things. It's one for the balustrade and one is for some other
I believe
area.
this
Does
is for the
anybody know?
balustrade.
They're all for the
I believe.
balustrade?
There are two different ones. There's one behind the set of chairs that goes around the interior, and that's at one price range.
Right. they're
And
two
then there
prices.
is a second panel that looks over to the big window.
Yeah.
And that's at a different price range. We have had people coming in and asking about it, so they may have a few more contributions since.
Nice.
I believe consistent with town policy, we will need to get select board approval before any names are actually etched onto those.
Oh, really? Okay. Good to know. Oops. And anything else about the Library Foundation? Okay.
Did we skip the McIver series?
Oh, we did
Yes.
skip McIver. Okay, so
No.
McIver.
No update. It's the MacGyver series, just so you know, it's the vice chair usually organizes yearly programming for the year, and is typically in the past it's been themes, but last time I did it, you can just pick anything you like, literally. So whatever your preferences are. I brought out, well, we had it in Zoom, a mariachi band, all female mariachi band last time. And we also talked about racism in Needham. Actually, no, and slavery in Needham, rather.
Slavery, right.
Yes,
That's a good one.
so it was the same year, different topic. So that this year, I'm thinking of some new topics. I'm still thinking.
So, okay, so you're gonna be
Nothing to
thinking,
report.
okay.
That's the bottom line.
Good description, what the MacGyver series is, right? Done by the vice chair each year.
Yeah, and it's in honor of, is it Vivian?
Vivian MacGyver.
MacGyver, right.
She was a longtime director here at the Needham Public Library, I think from 1960, 1988. 89.
I know.
think.
There's a-
She previously worked as I believe she was on catalog for multiple years before that.
He passed away about 5 years.
Oh.
Was it about 5 years ago?
About 5 years ago, and she would come to all the programs.
Nice. Okay, so that brings us to trustee comments. Anybody have anything they want to say or bring up? I have one question, since we're in person again for the first time. I'm sort of forgetting, when do we have public input and when and how, if people show up in the room, did we typically have a public input session
We used to do it before the meeting.
Yeah,
before? So
It
that
has
would
to
be
On the agenda.
yeah.
before
So we should add that.
before call to order?
Yes.
No.
Yes,
how would it
yes.
be before?
It
Okay,
was.
all right, before call to order. Okay, so we should start doing that.
Technically, we're, people aren't, not people around the table are supposed to be speaking. Unless we allow it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the chair has.
So,
It wasn't a problem today.
Yeah, so maybe when we put the agenda together, we could have an item before the call to order,
Yes.
public input or public.
Okay, I've been monitoring the chat box. There wasn't anything tonight, but
In the chat box?
yeah,
Okay.
there's just a couple of staff members, but nothing from the public.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Okay, sure.
former trustees would be public now, right? Like
Yeah.
Lois and Rose.
Yes, they're
Okay.
public,
Yeah.
so.
Technically, yeah, she was trying to get your attention because the chair would have to
Acknowledge.
approve.
Yes,
someone's-
right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
since we're back in, we're back in public for the first time in a while.
We're all
You have to sit
adjusting.
on that side.
Yeah, that's probably, except the screen is over there. so. Okay. All right, so unless we have any other trustee comments, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Second, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Typically,